Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Yeah, I know it's Friday afternoon, I know that, but there's so much going on. Julius Malema very much at the center of the news cycle with the ongoing pre-sentencing proceedings, right? Huge crowd in court, outside of court, and therefore the court, the hearings that had to be shifted to accommodate those huge crowds. So that continues. We'll get up to date with that in just a moment. We'll also talk about the ConCourt has remitted the case against Morwadi Cholota, the former personal assistant to Ace Magashule. Remember? That story is an important one. We'll cover that too. And then what about this one? Have you heard of the Free Dr. Afia Siddiqui campaign? Well, apparently she's been imprisoned in the USA for over 2 decades, I understand. We'll be chatting to Clive Stafford Smith, who's a human rights lawyer, founder and director of the Justice League, who's here effectively to talk about the awareness around that case. And there's more. Remember that tragic story of the scholars passing on, 14 of them, in fact, earlier this week, right? Well, a memorial service was held for them today. We'll get up to date with that. And being a Friday, we have a fireside chat. And my guest today is Joshua Maponga. He is a very, very interesting guest. And I think you know that. Joshua Maponga, part of the fireside chat guest number 1. However, let's get then up to date with the Julius Malema story, right? Let me remind you, you can call in anytime. We open the lines to 086 000 2032. If you're WhatsApping, which you can do right away because we bank your calls, 0614 104 107. And then you can text on that same number, but tweet too, like, hey, I'm here. Where are you listening from today? How about tweeting or posting on Facebook or just WhatsApping us and saying, and with a picture of yourself and telling me where you're listening to the show from right now. I'd love to see it, okay? Hashtag the National Pulse and then tag SAFM Radio. So my name is Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. Thank you for giving up your time, connecting with us for the next 3 hours. So let's get straight then to the Julius Malema story. So during today's proceedings, Jessie Ann Thompson, a social worker in private practice, recommended that Malema be given a suspended fine instead of a prison sentence, arguing that he is a first-time offender and has not been implicated in any criminal conduct in the 7 years since the firearm discharge incident. He's actually been convicted of that firearm discharge. So this is the pre-sentencing proceedings that will determine what happens to him next, okay? Well, let's find out more from Hlumisa Qabaka, who's the SABC News reporter based in the Eastern Cape. I would take it that whole East London or Eastern Cape region has been a hive of activity.
Hi, good afternoon to you and the studio and the listeners at home.
Thank you so much. Right. Give us a sense of where are we at right now with the proceedings, and then we'll talk back to what happened earlier on today.
With the proceedings right now, we've got the state prosecutor advocate Joel Caesar, who explained to the court that the reason that the case has taken this long, it's due to the COVID-19, because when it was supposed to start, the COVID-19 period came along, and then everything had to be put on hold up until then. When the go-ahead to proceed was given, the other issue that they had faced was their availability in terms of handling the case. So he emphasized that this is the only reason that has led to this case taking so long. It's not that it took 7 years for other reasons, but the delays that they had not foreseen, such as the COVID-19. Now, as the court proceeds inside, outside, the supporters of Julius Malema are still waiting. But now the other issue that they're facing is that due to the heat and lack of water in catering, we have had about 2 of the members who had collapsed, and an ambulance had come by to pick them up. This is due to the fact that even though some of them arrived at around 6 a.m. this morning, they have not been given any food. They haven't received any water. They have resorted to seeking shade from the buildings nearby and using the police vans close to the court.
Okay. And tell us where we are now in terms of the actual proceedings. Meaning, maybe just as I asked you that, let's just go back. When we talk about the pre-sentencing proceedings, what do we mean?
When we are talking about the pre-sentencing procedure, this is whereby the judge, especially in this case, the judge illustrated earlier on what are the factors that she is looking into beforehand, before putting down the judgment, that this is a high-profile case with a political figure, leading to the fact that whatever judgment may come, it needs to put a stem message to society, as it is a high society matter. As we have seen recently in the festive season, people were shooting out firearms in celebrations, open field. So she stated that this is a matter of high urgency in South Africa, the issue of public firearm shooting, which will also contributing to the issue that is being dealt with of high gangsterism in South Africa. So these are the things that are looked into, as the state also impacted on why they find that this matter should be dealt with. So others are saying this is something that should have been closed a long time ago, as the security personnel, the case against them was dropped, saying that there's not enough evidence. Now the question remains to the supporters: if there's not enough evidence for the person who owned the gun, then why is Malema still on the stand being roasted alone? Stating that should he be found guilty and sentenced into jail time, they will also want to go with him, as they say this is a political plot, a witch hunt.
Okay, but just to be clear, I mean, he has already been convicted. This is the sentencing that we're talking about now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm saying in terms of should he be found guilty, he's already been found guilty, right?
Yes.
Okay. Give us a sense of what's then happened today. I mean, who's been saying what in the court itself?
Unfortunately, since I'm outside, as we had indicated earlier, that the private social worker, as you had indicated, highlighted that Mr. Malema, this is a first attempt for him, meaning that there is no need for him to be fined in terms of a jail term, which could be a minimum of 15 years. So as it is a first time offense for him, that is one of the reasons they're saying that a harsher punishment of jail time is not necessary. So amongst the reasons why the other political parties, as we had seen, some of the UDM members are in part of the attending the court, including the AfroForum, who had also laid the charges against Julius Malema, saying that this is a high-risk matter that needs to be dealt with, and he needs to be given a sentence of prison time.
Okay, and in terms of you on the outside speaking to people, share the sentiments that they have?
The people who are outside here, who have come to parts of South Africa, we've got some from Cape Town, Joburg, Durban, Limpopo, even outside the borders from Namibia. They've all come to say this is a witch hunt and it's a racial matter, because why is it that he is still being roasted on the stand, as this is a matter that could have been done and finished a long time ago? They do not understand why the proceedings are taking this long, and they are ready for whatever may be dealt with in terms of the final sentencing, if it's going to be a fine or is it going to be jail time, saying that they will appeal it and they will have the support. They will be backing up Malema all the way to the High Court to appeal whatever judgment has been placed. And if it should be that he gets arrested, they are also laying their lives on the ground, saying that they will go along with him to jail.
Okay. So let's then talk about that last thing. When are we expecting a decision here?
If I may be honest with you, I do not believe a decision will be handed out today, because the state is still cross-examining everything, including the team of Mr. Malema, which also included senior advocate Thembeka Toby, who is also part of Julius Malema's team. So there is still a few things they need to fine-comb before the final sentencing.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Appreciate your time on a hectic time, certainly in the Eastern Cape, in the East London area. Hlumisa, Kabaka, the SABC News reporter, covering the story of the Julius Malema pre-sentencing proceedings. But as you've heard, that the call has been made from a social worker recommending that Malema, who's already been convicted, by the way, of shooting that pistol in a public space, that he be given a suspended fine instead of a prison sentence. And as you've heard from our reporter, the sentence itself not expected to be announced today, right? But we shall see. Now, you may comment on that as well. What do you make of this? What do you think is likely to happen, and what do you want to happen? So really two questions. What do you want to see happen to Julius Malema, and what do you think will actually happen? Keeping in mind, and let me emphasize this point, that he's already been convicted. So this is not a case of overturning the conviction. He's been convicted. This is about determining the sentencing, and therefore this is what we call the pre-sentencing procedures. I'll check out your calls. If you're up for a live call, go for it right away. 086 000 2032, or you can WhatsApp to 0614 104 107. Welcome to the National Pulse.
63-year-old Almero knows all about saving with Outsurance.
We do save 417 Rand. That's about 5,000 Rand a year.
That's an awesome saving on Almero's 2021 Ford Ranger.
And there's a out bonus that you get if you don't claim for 3 years. I am really looking forward to it.
How much money could Outsurance save you? Get a quote now. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online.
Masanda Wana and Sudanese Giants, the leader of the country, have a mammoth task to illustrate who will occupy the summit of Group C. This is the CAF Champions League. Experience the top-of-the-table clash. Mamelodi Sundowns versus Al Hilal Sports Club. This Friday, 23 January at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Then on SABC radio stations at 8 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sports.
For the love of the game.
I don't love going to school. I don't love sitting in a classroom with 50 other children. But I do love learning. Ndiyakuthanda ukufunda isiXhosa as a language. I do love getting good grades. I do love UCT Online High School because I do love my future. Apply online before the 26th of January.
Right, so we'll get to your calls. I see there's lots of people wanting to talk. Mastermind, Warren, as well as Bobby Chu, right? But in the meantime, before we get to that, this is important too. So it's still January, you know that. And January is for intention setting. Less noise, more meaning. So just saying yes, right? Yes to beauty, yes to culture, yes to slowing down, yes to the Montreux Jazz Festival in Franschhoek, where Montreux meets Africa, with curated global and African music in an intimate setting. Don't miss it. Get your tickets at the end of January and make this your yes moment. Montreux Jazz Festival Franschhoek. Say yes. The website is www.mf. No, let me say that again. You must not get it wrong. mjfsa.com. Said it 3 times now. mjfsa.com. I'm sure you're going to remember it for sure.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
Right, key word on the show, react. Let's get your reaction. Bobby in Virginia, go for it. Hi, Bobby.
Great. It's a final time for that arrogant to go to jail. He called himself Commander-in-Chief. He don't even have a right to call himself like this. And the next issue is when the EFF was created in 2013, he had an interview with that time ETV star Deborah Pata, and he called himself, he's a revolutionary. What do you think of himself he is? That's enough. You want to ask me something?
You want to tell me something?
No, well, maybe you want to ask me something on what I make my statement.
What do you think should happen to him?
Jail, according to the law. Besides, for unlawful possession of weapon or ammunition, the sentence can be 25 years.
So you think that's what should happen? Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that does not happen to any of those crash in transit offenders.
All right. Okay, Bobby, in Virginia, you have set the agenda for the show. We always say the audience, people that represent effectively part of the National Pulse community, you do set the agenda, and you've done just that. Thank you for that. Warren in Stutterheim. Go for it, Warren.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and all the listeners.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to take a slightly different tack, but around this. Now, hundreds of supporters of this Mr. Malema were trucked down and bussed down. Okay, I just feel very sorry for the actual people who live in that area, especially Quigney. No toilets. There are very, very few toilets. In fact, public toilets, nobody would like to use a public toilet. Now, the mess and the rubbish and the noise in the Daily Dispatch, it was reported today that people are just fed up. Now, the whole thing falls on the organizers. Why didn't you supply enough water, public, higher toilets? Because there's this mob. Excuse me, I'm calling them a mob because they're a mob. Okay, they're going to leave, and they're going to leave East London with a filthy, dirty area where they have congregated and messed and defecated and relieved themselves.
So who should have done something? I mean, whose responsibility? Listen, any one of us, even you and I, if we're out in the public spaces for 10 hours with no other means of relief.
No, the organizers, the EFF.
You mean the EFF organizers? I see what you mean.
They should have realized they've trucked these people in, they've bussed them in. Now, have toilets, have facilities, have cleanups to clean up. The EFF has made this mess in East London. I'm going to be going down on Monday, okay? And I can tell you the mess will still be there. And who does it fall to clean? The BMC cleaners on that. And it's not fair. The EFF have started this. The EFF should clean it and leave the place as clean as possible. But they won't. They will truck up to there. They'll be bussed out of there, and they will show the big finger, okay, to the people of East London. And I don't think this is right, because it's a smear on the EFF. They're not worried, especially the organisers.
Okay, I think you've made your point already, and it's very, very clear where you stand on this issue, Warren in Stutterheim. So, you agree with Warren? You disagree? Just regarding the crowds and how they've needed to relieve themselves, and he's saying, in fact, the lack of facilities, and that had to be the responsibility of the organisers. That means those that have campaigned to get supporters out there, which would mean the EFF. Are you one of them? It's possible you could well be amongst that crowd outside. Are you one of those people? And if you're up for it, how about giving me a call? Felix in Mthatha. Hi, Felix.
Hi, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed, right? That's close to where you are now. Go for it. What's your point? Not that close, but close, yeah.
My point is, Ashraf, I think we're all equal in South Africa. We're all under democracy. And why is it such a big thing when certain leaders, supposed to be leaders, got to go to jail? It's a big thing because why is he better than any other person that's in jail? Everybody
but
must
why do you think he's better? When you say why is he better, what suggests to you that he's
What I'm saying is because he's a particular leader. Yep. But a leader to be doing such things, a leader is supposed to lead the people and show them not to do the wrong things. That is in your constitution, that your firearm, you can't decide it anyway. Doesn't he know?
Yeah, but he's already been convicted. That means he's been found guilty.
Yes, I understand. But what is the big deal about this? That's what I'm trying to get the people. They must actually pass people in for what?
You think they shouldn't do that?
I don't know if the law is going to do its thing. I hope they just send him to jail, and it's simple and that. Simple as that thing.
All right, just send him to jail. As simple as that. Is it really that simple? Thanks for that call, Felix in Mthatha. Well, there you are. You know, if you ever want to get a sense of the pulse of a nation in 3 or 4 calls in one go, there we are, man. And there's just so many more WhatsApp comments. So my thoughts to you just for now. Malema, what do you think? What do you think will happen, and what do you want to see happen? He's already convicted. We're talking of the nature of the sentence. Then, as you've heard from some of the callers, the expectations of people like Malema cannot go to jail because it's Malema, you know, that type of thing. And then, of course, the huge crowds coming out to support their leader, EFF supporters. And as a result of that, there's been an issue clearly of many of them out in the public spaces and no facilities for them in terms of relieving themselves. And it's caused all sorts of problems. And that's what they're talking about, that what role has the EFF played in that? Or should it be somebody else's problem? When you have a high-profile guest and or guest, did I call him a guest? A high-profile individual in court, you expect big crowds. So whose responsibility is it to accommodate those crowds? There's more calls. Tula in Joburg. Hello.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good indeed. Good to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my call. Yes, Ashraf. I think... Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. I think it's high time these political leaders started behaving responsibly. We can't be abusing power just because we've got a massive of followers. Even as the supporters, we need to think twice before we follow somebody. We can't let somebody go and do something knowing that is breaking the law. But just because I'm a leader and I've got followers, we blindly go there and support. Like the judge is wrong. When a judge puts a judgment, she or he has seen where that person has broken the law. So because if the judgment does not go to what we want, it doesn't mean that the judge is against that person.
Do you get that expectation from, say, supporters of the EFF, right? And it's happened to others as well, like let's say with Zuma before, to say, no matter what, one thing they cannot do, they cannot rule against us because we will just not allow it. Do you get that sense? And if so, why do you get that sense?
I get that sense because, from the way people are reacting, even before the sentencing has been made, they are saying, no, it's a white judge, this and that and that. No, man, it's high time we started behaving or being responsible. Just because the judgment is not in our favor. What if it was one of the supporters being on trial there? Any of these leaders come and support when that person has done something wrong? No, they won't do that. So it's high time we started being becoming emotional or racializing the whole thing. Let's be honest and be fair to the community or to ourselves. When the law has been broken, should be consequences.
Okay, got that. Law has been broken. There should be consequences. Do I even ask you? Do you agree with that? I would expect you to agree with that. Okay, here's another comment in the same vein via WhatsApp.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon, listeners. This is Patrick. Ashraf, no one is above the law. No one is above the law. Julius Malema must be arrested because he's already been convicted. He must be sentenced like everyone. Jacob Zuma, he went to prison. So what is special about him? What is special about him? Jacob Zuma, he went to prison, and others. So I think he must be sentenced like everyone. No one is above the law. He must face the music.
All right. And there's no music in that, facing of the music, if you get my point, what I'm trying to say. Right, let's get more comments from you. You have the chance to call in live when we open the lines, which are open now, 086 000 2032. And then WhatsApp 0614 104 107. Text or voice note. Hey, tweet as well. You can tweet us. You can also post on Facebook. Just tag SFM Radio and do tag me, Ashraf Garda. Right, let's get the news headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Western Cape authorities have warned of an impending drought across the province. Seat of Guruleni Mayor Nkosindipila Xhakaza has dismissed allegations linking him to the killing of the sitter's former chief auditor, Mpho Mafule. The mayor briefed the media in Germiston following media reports that he attempted to interfere in investigations into wrongdoing in the municipality. The Kremlin has described nearly 4 hours of talks with their senior U.S. delegation on ending the war in Ukraine as extremely informative, constructive, frank and trusting. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Melrose queuing towards Colette Drive and a stationary vehicle on the M1 southbound at Buccleuch Interchange. In KZN, the M13 westbound in Pinetown queuing towards Stapleton Road and the N3 westbound has heavy traffic towards the M13 Paradise Valley off-ramp. In Cape Town, there's a stationary vehicle on the R300 southbound after Hindle Road and fire as well as smoke reported on the N2 outbound after Spine Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Khapele.
Right, so to me, about a week after the African Champions Cup of Nations tournament, we're back to continental football, club football, but continental football once again. Yeah,
a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Mamelodi Sundowns in action tonight in the CAF Champions League, and veteran goalkeeper Dennis Onyango believes that collecting at least 10 points should be enough for the team to qualify for the CAF Champions League knockout stages. He says that it's crucial for the Brazilians to make the most of their home matches, starting with tonight's clash against Al Hilal at Loftus Versfeld Stadium. The two teams are currently level on points, and both will be looking to take control of the group. And Oyango adds that while the qualification target is quite clear, Sundowns cannot afford to drop points at home. This is if they want to gain a strong advantage in the group.
I think it's exciting times for the boys, because it's been a while since they've been on the pitch in terms of Champions League football. But the journey continues. As the coach said, we're still a long way to go. But the most important thing is to win our home game. That's the most important thing, because Champions League, I think 10, 11 points, you're guaranteed qualification to the knockout stages. But to do that, you need to win your home games, and the boys know that the task ahead is very important. Very difficult game, very difficult team, Al Hilal, with a very strong team that was mostly 90% at the AFCON, so they know each other, they know themselves very well, but we know what to do at home. At Loftus, we just need to win and make sure that the team goes to the knockout stages.
Kickoff is at 8 p.m. Meanwhile, Richards Bay head coach Ronnie Gabriel says that the mood in camp is positive as his side prepares for the Betway Premiership clash against Welele FC. The Natal Rich boys went into the AFCON and festive break on a 4-match unbeaten run, recording 3 draws, 1 win, including an impressive 2-0 derby victory over Amazulu FC. And Gabriel says that the focus is on building on that run and setting the tone for the year ahead.
Players are looking in good spirits. We are looking forward towards this encounter and want to start the new year on a high.
In rugby, United Rugby Championship action heats up tomorrow as the Sharks face the Stormers at Cape Town Stadium. The Stormers remain undefeated at the top of the log, while the Sharks arrived buoyed by last weekend's 50-point demolition of Claremont in the Champions Cup. Coach J.P. Peterson says that the win has given his side confidence, but admits that the Stormers will be a tougher test. In terms of cricket, Proteas coach Shukri Conrad says that he's confident that David Miller will be fit in time for the T20 World Cup in India next month. Miller picked up an adductor injury while playing for the Paul Royals in the SA20 on Monday and has been ruled out of the upcoming T20 International Series against the West Indies. The squad has also been affected by injuries to Tony De Zorzi, Donovan Ferreira, who have been replaced by Ryan Rickleton and Tristan Stubbs, and Conrad is saying that he's very hopeful that Miller will recover in time. In tennis, Daniil Medvedev fought back to reach the Australian Open 4th round, beating Fabian Morazan in 5 sets. The 11th seed claimed a 6-7, 4-6, 7-5, 6-love and 6-3 win. And up next for him is American Lerner Tien. On that note, that is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
As the nation seeks answers, SAFM brings you live, uninterrupted coverage of Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating allegations made by KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. You can also stay up to date with the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into Criminality, Political Interference and Corruption in the Criminal Justice System. Stay informed, stay connected. Tune in live on SAFM 104 to 107 and follow the coverage across our digital platforms live on Facebook, X and YouTube at SAFM Radio. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, we've got some interesting guests coming up in a few minutes' time. In fact, one is based in the USA, and then we'll talk about the Concord ruling that sends the Cholota prosecution back to the High Court. That comes up just now. But let's get to some of your comments via WhatsApp.
Hello, Ashraf. Why is the guy who gave Julius Malema the gun was not found guilty, but only Julius was found guilty? Another thing, for Malema to go to jail or not to go to jail, I would say the law must take its course. If he goes to jail, if that thing warrant the jail term, he must go to jail. If it doesn't warrant the jail term, he mustn't go to jail. The law must just take its course. Charles from Fosloras.
Thank you. The law must take its course. I think for many people the case is, what is the law, isn't that?
Good day, Afrat. It's Galaxy 500 in Spraidview. Ashfrat, I'm highly disappointed in our judicial system. I mean, Malema is like any other citizens. If he was supposed to get 15 years or 5 years, he was supposed to be going to jail. He is not a risk to anybody. I don't think that cops, the justice system, will send a good message in terms of this. Even the woman that has produced that gun, it means the case must also be exempted if Malema could be done that. It's just our judicial system has been captured. They just see the red overall, they're so afraid. It's as I've stated, it's 500 from Spring.
All right, got that. Well, the law must take its course. That's what many people are saying, whatever that means, right? Vincent in Midrand, let's hear you out. Go for it.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and fellow listeners.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. Ashraf, I just want to harp on the same string that has been harped by many a caller.
Yeah.
That the law must take its course without, as they put it, any fear, favor, or prejudice. And then the political pressure that we see outside the courtroom, must not influence the judge when making a final decision. Because I think there were more people at Jacob Zuma's house when he was arrested, but he was still arrested anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, he handed himself over, but I'm saying the pressure was there also. So if they are lenient towards him because of the pressure, they will be setting a precedent which they will find very difficult to keep up with. That's all I wanted to say, Ashraf. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, the fact is we have an independent judiciary. I mean, exactly your point about Julius Malema, about Jacob Zuma, that tells you that we can't be populist, right? And do you think that by and large, of all the things we do wrong, that in fact we do have an independent judiciary that operates outside of the personal feelings of me and you and, political parties and lobbyists, and we wouldn't expect anything less, isn't it? Right? Okay, let's stay in Midrand from Vincent to Walter. Walter, go for it.
Hey, how are you? How are you, sir?
I'm good to talk to you, Walter. Go for it. Thank you.
I'm good. Yes, they're saying the law must take its course. It's true. Are we allowed here in South Africa to use someone's firearm? If we are not allowed, which means even that guy who gave Julius the firearm, he was supposed to be standing next to him as we speak.
Yeah, look,
So
I mean, that's
this
come up a
thing-
lot. That's come up a lot. Why not? What about the other person? Yeah.
Yeah, but that thing we can clearly see that this is too political. Those who are happy, yes, they must be happy, especially black people, for when we lose him, they must prepare for Cape Independence, which is coming. Thank you.
Okay, got that. Well, Cape Independence, no, man. Why would you link all of that to the Cape Independence? It's a grouping of people. No. That's what I would say. Anyway, right, there's more voice notes.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners of SAFM. The supporters of Julius Malema, they were there to support Julius Malema, or they were encouraging him, or they were motivating him to continue of what he was doing. What is the purpose of his supporters to be there? Because no one is above the law in this country. It was an encouragement. or it was a motivation for him to continue doing what he's doing? Thank you.
But when you say a motivation for him to continue doing what he's doing, I'm not too sure what you mean by that. I understand the support for him because, political parties, they support their leader no matter what. But when you say he must continue doing what he's doing, what is suggested that is the case? We'll chat to Advocate Mthunzi Mhaga coming up just now regarding a significant ConCourt ruling. We'll also chat to Clive Stafford Smith just now in a few minutes' time, in fact, after 4. He is a human rights lawyer who's defended Dr. Afia Siddiqui, a Pakistani neuroscientist who's been, convicted in the USA on many charges, I think terror linked to one of that, and she's been serving an 86-year sentence for attempted murder. So we're going to talk to him about just that. There's also the story of the Vanderbijlpark memorial for the Vanderbijlpark 14 tragedy. Indeed it is. But let's now go to something that's really interesting. As of August last year, General Dagvin R.M. Anderson, who was from the U.S. Air Force, assumed command of the United States Africa Command, AFRICOM, right? Succeeding Marine General Michael Langley. So heading into this year and beyond, General Anderson's tenure is defined by a strategic shift towards strengthening the security economics nexus, focusing on mitigating terrorism's impact on development and addressing the growing influence of geopolitical competitors like Russia and China in Africa. I suppose you could see the examples of that in a very different way with what's happened with Trump in Greenland, isn't it? Let's try and understand more of this, because Pearl Matibe yesterday had an opportunity to sit down with the general at an event that he hosted at one of the U.S. military bases. Now, Pearl is a Washington-based geopolitical analyst and correspondent. So, Pearl, appreciate your time and thanks for joining us.
Very much, Ashraf. Maybe I should say, is it too late to say Happy New Year? But good afternoon to everybody in South Africa. Hope everything is well and goes well for 2026.
Thank you so much. Well, the good afternoon certainly sticks, right? Okay, as a starting point, give me some context here. What are we saying?
Right. So, yesterday was a very interesting day, right? I managed to secure a one-on-one access sit-down with, I guess, the man who oversees all of the United States military across Africa, excluding Egypt. So he has the responsibility over all U.S. troops and their activities. This is the U.S. Air Force Commanding General Dagvin Anderson. I was able to sit down with him. He was hosting an inter-dialogue sort of conference, along with two other executive branch institutions. The State Department and many senior high-level officials were there. So there were some State Department principals. There were some commerce leaders there as well, senior government officials. So all of yesterday, and this was held at Fort McNair here in Washington. You could call it the Fort McNair Dialogue, so to speak. Yes, it's definitive. So in a nutshell, it was an interagency collaborative meeting about how they will move forward to implement what the current administration wants in terms of its approach towards the entire continent of Africa.
Okay, and therefore my point, us in South Africa, the rest on the continent of Africa, why does it matter to us? Why should it matter?
Well, Ashraf, thank you so much for that question. Commander Anderson, when I sat down with him, I think because I've tracked, right, this nexus and the evolution of the strategy from exclusive interviews, as well previously from his deputy commanders, that's Lieutenant General John Brennan and Ambassador Scott. Incidentally, Ambassador Scott was also with him, and I asked him if he felt well supported by the delegation that he was leading there. So yesterday seemed to be sort of a triad. The State Department and officials from there, and officials from Commerce, and then, of course, officials from AFRICOM. So I would call this sort of like a triad axis that I was able to sit down and talk to individuals from these institutions at this very, very high level, get their perspective on how things. So to walk us through a little bit about what happened yesterday and what Anderson actually said. One thing, for example, you're right. So you want to understand this approach as an integration or an interplay between defense, the activities of the State Department, which kind of handles diplomacy, and then commerce. So how those three pieces of statecraft, if you want to call it that, will be implemented in a cohesive, and one word I heard from one of the most senior commerce officials that I sat down and talked to as well, and who very happily took some of my questions. He said how they will do that, his own words was flawlessly or effectively. How will they put these things together? Because remember, Trump now has this policy which he is saying trade, not aid. So the question is now, how will these institutions implement this policy? So not going to much trade, what President Trump wants are deals. So how then, if you're in defense, if you're leading the military, and President Trump wants deals out of, with partners in Africa, because they do regard African countries as partners, how will those come about? And commerce can do that. If investors are going to come to the continent, look, you might have somebody sitting in Stellenbosch, might be sitting in Pretoria, might even be in Durban or Pietermaritzburg, who maybe went to university, maybe they went to Wits or some other college, but maybe doesn't have a job right now. So when private sector comes to South Africa, or it could be South Africa, it could be Nigeria, it could be Kenya, or indeed it could be Cote d'Ivoire, right? If they come and invest there, if the environment is insecure and there is terrorism and there are still some conflicts, if they want to invest in the Eastern DRC but they can't because of the instability or the insecurity, if you will, how will their investments be secure? So this is where then sort of like the context of why it is important for you to have long-term prosperity for Africa as well as for America. There needs to be security, right? So this is where this integration and this meshing of these things, that's why they were having this this event. So
because it's interesting. It suggests that if you have a U.S. security agenda, then to drive that agenda, you want to drive economic growth in those regions to ensure, from an American perspective, some form of security influence, and I suppose vice versa could also apply, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think if you want to think about it, is sort of in layman's terms here, the security economics nexus. What is that? This is defense. Defense executes operations. That's what they do. Military leaders, they execute operations. State Department secures diplomatic access, diplomatic issues. Commerce, the ministry or the cabinet ministry secretary that is responsible for commerce, they fund sustainable capacity, right? So all of AFRICOM's operational tempo is what they would be doing essentially so that they can bring this about. So it's an operational tempo for AFRICOM. This isn't parallel tracks. It's not like State Department is going on a diplomacy track, doing something on its own, Commerce also doing out and engaging on the continent. This is a fusion of these three things. And we've seen some of these examples, right? Namibia, the deputy commanders, Lieutenant General John Brennan, have made trips to Namibia. They were there in July, I believe, middle of last year. They've sent delegations in September. They've been the new chief of mission in Windhoek has made trips back to AFRICOM's headquarters. So Namibia is one place that they are very interested in engaging and strengthening that relationship. I know, for example, when I covered this on one of our podcasts before, Deputy Commander Brennan and Ambassador Scott said to me that their high-level visits in Namibia, they went to Angola as well. So you can imagine that Southern Africa is an area of interest where they want to strengthen and have these investments coming to Africa, right? I did ask the question about jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
I very simply said to them, if I'm in Africa, what I might be in here when I'm hearing investment, I'm thinking, okay, does that mean this may increase the the possibility of jobs? But yeah, with Namibia, AFRICOM has worked with Namibia on many fronts, from maritime security, exactly what Lieutenant General Bennett told me when I had an interview with him last year.
Okay,
He said,
I'll tell you what, pause on that. Just pause for a moment. I want to sort of look at what would be the end goal to all of this and how that plays out. We'll do that right after this.
This is Lungi on any other regular day.
This economy makes me post once a day. Who does that? Like, ew.
Now this is Lungi getting extra with the 20 gig summer deal for just 99 Rand.
I have so many gigs. I could even have a gig, guys. I'm going live every single day to me because get
Extra your summer. Get 20 gigs plus 2 months free YouTube Premium and 100 Vodabucks exclusively on the Vodapay app. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? With Specsavers buy one, get one offer, you get great value for money. Get a free pair of branded single vision prescription sunglasses up to 3,300 Rand when you purchase a comprehensive eye examination and spectacle frames with lenses on your first pair. The best part? Choose from top brands like Police, Hugo, Under Armour, Tommy Hilfiger, Red Bull Spect and more. Affordable eye care? Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
As we celebrate 90 years of existence, SAFM takes you back to the voices that shaped a nation.
Now leave the SABC and see the tower block lit up, 27 stories of light. Move from Auckland Park into the shadow of the Hillbrow Post Office Tower.
This is the English service of the SABC. Here is the news, read by Patricia Carr. A member of the Planning Committee of the President's Council, Mr. Nick Turnich, has been appointed chairman of the Council's Community Relations Community.
90 years of trusted voices. This is SAFM. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, we're going to conclude the chat with Pearl Matibe, the Washington, D.C.-based geopolitical analyst and correspondent around what is the U.S. security economics nexus. Fascinating indeed. Pearl, you touched on, firstly, Namibia, Angola. Just explain, what is that all about? Why the significance of those two countries?
Absolutely. Well, of course, the U.S.-Angola relationship has been going stronger and stronger. It did a little bit under President Biden, but what we did see with Angola here, actually President Lorenzo was at the White House, met when the DRC and Rwanda were signing those agreements, and he's been working on that relationship, which of course President Trump is very interested in. What he says he's trying to bring peace to in this DRC-Rwanda conflict. So Angola is a strategic partner for the United States, but why then important, for example, for AFRICOM. So AFRICOM's high-ranking leaders did engage Angola in some strategic talks last year. What I'll tell you about this is that they were sort of practicing this sort of eye-to-eye diplomacy that they emphasize, that they don't just want to be on a phone call, they want to be on a plane, going to meet the African leaders, looking them in the eye, sitting down with them, getting to know each other, and having this conversation. So the U.S. military command's top leaders have been doing this engagement. They spent 4 days, in Angola, engaging directly with senior military leaders to chart this new course in this security collaboration. Okay. They met with Angola's Secretary of State and National Defense, and also with high-ranking officials there, as well as the president of Angola.
Okay.
So discussions focused on bolstering this sort of security cooperation.
All right. And to end with, just to give us in one line, what would be the end goal?
The end goal here, I believe, is that Anderson's nexus, when I say nexus, I am specifically talking about this security and economics nexus. I think it sort of outmaneuvers their adversaries from their viewpoint, from what I'm hearing them say. Their viewpoint is, of course, their adversaries is China and Russia. And we know already how China and Russia have been active in Southern Africa. I'm just using Southern Africa as one region, but all over Africa. And so I think that the Chinese infrastructure, for example, becoming more vulnerable, this is one thing. But remember, Trump's aim is, he is saying trade, not aid. How do you now implement this policy? And that is certainly the one of those goals. They want to deliver American investment, saying that it delivers results. And now they're just trying to have this. They had this meetings yesterday to say, okay, how do we do that? What are the things they need to do amongst themselves as institutions in their executive branch to bring about investments that will be secure in Africa?
Pearl Matibe, I appreciate your time. Fascinating insights regarding the U.S. security economics nexus. We have Advocate Mthunzi Maga after this.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's get up to date with this. The Constitutional Court has remitted the case against Morwari Cholota, the former personal assistant. Remember, very high-profile case, this one. The former personal assistant to Ace Magashule, back to the High Court. The Apex Court handed down a ruling earlier today with regard to the extradition. Let's find out exactly what has been handed down with Advocate Mthunzi Maga, the NPA spokesperson. Advocate Maga, good to connect with you, as always, on the National Pulse.
Compliments, Ashraf, and to your listeners. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Right, just give us a rundown in terms of what has actually been handed down and the implications thereof.
What the Constitutional Court said was that indeed they agree that the extradition of Ms. Cholota was unlawful because the request thereof was made by the officials in the NPA or the DPP office in the Free State, in circumstances where they hold the view that the national executive is the authoritative authority that should be making that request. We don't take issue with that because, fortunately for us, the court then said that's not the end of the inquiry. Despite the fact that there may have been an issue with the extradition, it does not therefore mean that the judge in the Free State House Court was correct in refusing us an authority to prosecute Ms. Cholota and therefore saying the court lacks the necessary jurisdiction. Hence the decision to have the matter remitted back to the Free State High Court for the judge to adjudicate the rest of the grounds upon which the special plea of Ms. Cholota was mounted. That's number one in respect of Ms. Cholota. So for us as the National Prosecuting Authority, that's a win. It's a successful litigation that we were mounting. In respect of Schutz, which was an appeal by the NPA in Johannesburg to say the SCA's judgment was wrong insofar as it may have been interpreted to have retrospect. We started with an application for condonation saying the judge or the judges in the Constitutional Court must forgive us for filing the application late. That was dismissed. We accept that because that's the Apex Court. We can't go beyond that. But of importance is the fact that we interpret the Schutz judgment to have no bearing on other extradition matters because we take the same view in our interpretation of the judgment that it does not have the retrospective effect, in essence saying it does not affect the cases or extradition requests that were made prior to the delivery of the Schutz SCA judgment.
All right. So we're on to news time. So just very quickly, in one line, what happens next?
We're going to go to court Monday in the Free State High Court. And as the prosecution, we will be ready with our witnesses for the trial to resume. But then the team will have to have a discussion now with the judge and the other parties, or that is the legal representative of Ms. Cholota, to map the way forward in terms of the adjudication of the rest of the grounds upon which the special plea of lack of jurisdiction were mounted.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. Advocate Mthunzi Maga, the NPA spokesperson. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts here on the National Pulse. Let's get the news. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, a warning of an imminent drought in the Western Cape, and Ekurhuleni Mayor denies links to auditor's death. For SAFM News, I'm Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. Western Cape authorities have warned of an impending drought across the province. The South African Weather Services is predicting lower than average rainfall for a second consecutive year. The Provincial Department of Local Government says water management systems are lagging behind in a number of municipalities, contributing to the extent of the water crisis. The Knysna municipality has only days of water left, with Premier Alan Winde requesting a provincial disaster declaration from national government when they addressed a media briefing in Cape Town.
We have a number of towns that are definitely in that disaster space where they themselves are also calling for a local disaster. Now we'll be calling for a provincial disaster. Primarily I think of Knysna, where they're getting down to days worth of water. Other towns in the region also you can see under huge pressure in the Gardenreach, under huge pressure in the Karoo. So the disaster declaration enables us to put further emergency mechanisms in place.
City of Ekurhuleni Mayor Nkosindipile Xhakaza has dismissed allegations linking him to the killing of the city's former chief auditor, Mpho Mafole. The mayor briefed the media in Germiston following media reports that he attempted to interfere in investigations into wrongdoings in the municipality. Mafole was shot and killed in Kempton Park in June last year, days after submitting a report detailing multi-million tender irregularities in the Metro municipality. Xhakaza insists he's never interfered with or influenced in any investigation.
Let me be direct that I reject the insinuation and any suggestion that I have interfered with, influenced or sought to derail any investigation in the strongest possible terms as a law-abiding citizen, but most importantly as a leader in the city, as a person who's committed to deal with the wrath, and I've demonstrated that I've been at the forefront of actively dealing decisively with some of the rot. I view this as a serious matters that require a thorough investigation.
The former personal assistant of Ace Magashule, Murwadi Cholota, says that the asbestos trial is an opportunity for the truth to come out. Cholota spoke to the media today after the Constitutional Court affirmed that her extradition from the U.S. was unlawful. Cholota was extradited from the U.S. in 2024 to face corruption and money laundering charges linked to the Free State asbestos case. She says that the state humiliated her during her extradition.
I think the nation also watched as I was taken away from my university where I was studying, unlawfully brought to this country, chained and accompanied by countless men with guns, and this after I had to spend still time in jail. As you've all watched, I was brought into court shackled, which is something that none of my former accused went through. I was paraded before TV cameras and humiliated before the nations. The state fought for me to be jailed pending this trial.
Private scholar transport operators in Mahikeng at loggerheads with the Northwest Transport Department after some of their vehicles were impounded by traffic officials. Officials say the vehicles did not have the required operating permits to transport learners. However, these operators allege that the department failed to issue these permits despite them submitting their applications.
My car was taken and they said they want 3,000 at the impound. So I don't have 3,000. What am I going to do because they have taken my livelihood? They say they want the permit. We applied for it last year, but still this day there is no avail. Starting from Monday, we will not be able to transport learners to school up until we conclude our matter with the NEC. This is because when we are on the roads, our vehicles are impounded. If you part with 3,000, it means you won't be able to pay installment.
The Kremlin has described nearly 4 hours of talks with a senior U.S. delegation on ending the war in Ukraine as extremely informative, constructive, frank and trusting. An aide to President Vladimir Putin stressed there could be no hope of a long-term settlement, however, without, as he put it, resolving the territorial issue. The BBC's Vitaly Shevchenko has the details.
Vladimir Putin keeps saying that Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, is illegitimate, suggesting that he wants him gone, suggesting that Russia wants some kind of influence on the Ukrainian political system. So while all these people from Ukraine, America and Russia saying that it's Donbass they're going to be talking about in Abu Dhabi today and tomorrow, I think we're best advised to remember that Russia's appetites go much, much further than that.
Recapping the top story, the Western Cape authorities have warned of an impending drought across the province. The South African Weather Services is predicting lower than average rainfall for a second consecutive year. I'm Ondilambana for SFM News headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Sunrisers and Royals battle for SA20 final place and Australian Open to start earlier tomorrow over heat forecast. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R59 northbound in Alberton, queuing towards Michelle Avenue and Solomon Mhlangu Drive in Pretoria, slow moving at the N4 highway. In KZN, the N3 outbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction and South Coast Road is where truck congestion is reported through Rosberg. In Cape Town, Lisbeth Parkway queuing through Observatory and Marine Drive northbound in Milnerton, slow moving towards Sunset Beach. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Hey, listen, keep the calls coming, keep the WhatsApps coming. Let's get your comments. 0614 104 107 if you're up for WhatsApping, comment, text or voice note. Then to call in live when we open the lines, 086 000 2032. And whatever it is we're talking about, react. If it is about Julius Malema and the pistol, react to that. If it is about the conversation I've had with Mthunzi Maga, you can react to that one. And the same, of course, with that very interesting chat that I had with the South African who's now living in the USA, Pearl Matibe, about the American plans, what is called the U.S. Security Economics Nexus. What exactly does that really mean? Well, I mean, she gave her thoughts. You may have your own opinions about that too. Later on, we'll have Joshua Maponga as our fireside chat. It really will be a fireside chat. I have no doubt about it when we talk to him. Right now, let's talk about someone that I've heard about for like years and years, and I'm talking about Dr. Afia Siddiqui. So there's a campaign titled Free Dr. Afia Siddiqui. It's been an ongoing campaign because I understand she, in fact, has been imprisoned in an American prison for effectively serving 86 years. So what exactly is the story? My understanding, a little bit of what we know, is she's Pakistani-born, living in America, neuroscientist, sentenced for some links to terror, linked maybe to 9/11. We'll find out more about that. But Clive Stafford-Smith is a human rights lawyer and he and director of the Justice League, and he's picked up this position to defend the position of Dr. Afia Siddiqui. I understand she's probably spent close to 2 decades in prison. We'll find out more about all the details and the story behind it with Clive Stafford-Smith. Clive, thank you for joining us, and welcome to South Africa.
Well, look, thank you very much. I'm deeply ashamed that this is my very first trip to South Africa. I've been to so many countries. They tell me how nice you all are, and it turns out to be true.
I'm glad, right. So what are you, who I understand is a British-American connection, and yes, I know you're a human rights lawyer, what are you doing in South Africa centered around the case of Dr. Afia Siddiqui?
Well, look, I've done a lot of investigation on her case. I've been to Afghanistan 5 times for her, and she never was actually charged with terrorism. She was charged with attempted murder of a US soldier, which turns out to be total nonsense. But I've just filed in New York City a 349-page challenge to a conviction. And I think this will be the year we get justice for this poor woman. I have done dozens of these cases, of Guantanamo cases in particular. And I've never come across such shocking injustice as Afia. So I'm in South Africa, A, because you people are very nice and Salam Media has been very supportive, but B, because I need to find a sanctuary for this poor woman. It amuses me that Donald Trump thinks that all Boers should go and claim asylum in America. Perhaps you want to send them there if they want to go, but I would love it if South Africa would accept one woman of color who's been horribly abused by America and give her the medical and psychiatric treatment she needs after being tortured all these years by the CIA.
Okay, interesting. So, I mean, we can check for about an hour about all these things, right? So the angle for you is to secure her release, and then to hope that she gets granted asylum in South Africa. But the release is to come before the asylum, right? Where are you with that?
Well, we have to have a solution to get the release, is the thing. So we need to figure out where to send her. This is a woman, for those of your listeners who don't know, who, when she was abducted by the CIA in March 2003, unlike all the other people I've represented, they abducted her children too. She had 3 children. And the 6-year-old Ahmed, the American CIA took him, an American child, to Afghanistan, put him in prison and changed his name. Mariam, the 4-year-old girl, they took her to Afghanistan, forcibly adopted her into a white Christian American family on the obvious principle that you only go to heaven if you're a white Christian American. And then the 3rd child, Suleiman, apparently they killed, but they've never admitted it. And it is possible that that child is alive and been forcibly adopted himself. So this one, poor Afia, was then taken to Bagram and tortured, where they pretended to torture her own children in front of her. And she has suffered so much. It's unlike any other case I've ever done. So she definitely needs a place to come and get treatment.
All right, let's understand this. What are the claims? I mean, as it stands, she's been convicted of something. As you said, it's not terror, right? What was she charged for? And what is the story in terms of what are the claims in terms of what did she actually do?
Okay. Well, it's a long and complicated thing, I'm sorry. But when the CIA worked out that she was nobody after 5 years of torture, they were going to just kick her out. But unfortunately, by then, she was the most famous woman in Pakistan because she was the daughter of the nation. Everyone knew her story. And so the ISI, the Pakistan intelligence, planned to murder her. And they sent her to a place called Ghazni in Afghanistan and said she could have her daughter back and go back to Pakistan if she just sat outside a mosque for a while. The plan was to pretend she was a suicide bomber. They'd called in a suicide bomb report, and they were just going to have the Afghan National Police kill her. And this was in 2008. Her life was saved by this wonderful chap I found in Ghazni. And so instead, she got arrested by the Afghan National Police. Then the Americans came to try to take her back. And they come into the room she's being held in the Afghan National Police headquarters. And according to her, she hears American.
And
one of them says she's on the loose and shoots her. So that's what really happened. Unfortunately, the Americans say that she grabbed a machine gun and tried to shoot them, which we can now disprove. So, but she was charged with attempted murder of an American soldier.
Of an American. So is that how she landed up in the USA? Yeah. I think Guantanamo Bay is one of them, but she's not there now. So how did that happen?
No, she was taken to New York City, having been patched up as they nearly killed her. And she was tried 9/10 of a mile from Ground Zero, the World Trade Center, had no kind of a defense, and was convicted and was given 86 years. You'd expect to get 5 or 6 years for attempted murder. And instead, they gave this poor woman the second longest history in the last longest sentence in the last 50 years. And this awful prison in Texas, where she has been repeatedly sexually assaulted and raped. It's just horrible. I get to see her quite often, and what she's going through is just a nightmare.
Interesting to say you get to see her, because I've heard others say, in fact, they don't allow access to her. And often there's been this conversation about, is Dr. Afia Siddiqui alive or not? You've seen her, you know, so you represent her, right?
Exactly, and I had one of my colleagues go in just yesterday, in fact. So it's definitely Afia, but people aren't allowed to see her except for me and my colleagues. And so, for example, she's a Muslim, a very sincere Muslim woman, and she's not been allowed to see an imam for the last 23 years. There's a very famous imam, Omar Suleiman, who's right there in Fort Worth, Texas, who's offered to go and give a solace, and the US won't let him in. It's one of the many it just drives me crazy as an American that they don't let her do this.
Let's go back. I mean, so let's just assume, that point about her attempting to shoot an American, right? Let's say, you have your story, but let's say we believe the American story, that was the intention.
Sure.
I mean, so that's true, let's say. Why then 86? Why then 86 years? I mean, is there any precedent for that level of term of sentence for someone who then actually failed if that was the attempt?
Well, actually there's another point, which is the CIA had lied about her being a kidnap victim for 5 years. If indeed she was, and now we can prove she was kidnapped and tortured, she had the right to shoot any American she came across. So, she's innocent either way. But the reason that they gave her such a long stretch was she really is an embarrassment to the United States, because there was no other woman put through the War on Terror rendition to torture program. There was no other human being who had their children abducted at the same time. And her children are American citizens. The CIA, which is meant to protect us, instead of protecting these American citizens, the CIA took her and put them in prison.
I've often heard people say that she is the victim of mistaken identity. Do you follow that line as well?
Well, I think it's more than just mistaken identity. There's actually a fascinating story here. There's a group called Station Alec, who were the CIA people in charge of trying to kill bin Laden. And they made some terrible mistakes. And one of them was that they had a list of 9 people who they were trying to get information on. And they took the pictures of those 9 people, including Afia Siddiqui, to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who's quite notorious as supposedly number 3 in Al-Qaeda. And they tortured him, they waterboarded him between March the 18th and March the 23rd, 2003, and got him to give false statements against all of those 9 people. And I've been privileged to represent 3 of them, and we've so far exonerated 7 of the 9. The ISI apparently killed the 8th, and Afia is the only person left in prison. So it's a bit more than a false identity. It's an intentionally false identity in the end.
And just to be clear, the imprisonment term is 86 years. How many years has she spent in prison thus far?
She's done 23 years. Now, 5 of those years were in Bagram Air Force Base under torture, but the other 18 years have been in FMC Caswell.
And as it stands, are there any suggestions that even outside of your pressure, she would be released anyway? I mean, 20 years is a lifetime. Yeah.
No. I mean, I'm afraid we Americans are pretty mean. And when we say we're giving you 86 years, we mean you're going to die in prison. So we've got to get justice for her. I'm confident we will, because now we've done the investigation. I think it's going to be very hard for anyone to justify anything about her.
I want to ask you about South Africa and the amnesty that you, or the asylum rather, that you spoke about, which we'll do right after this.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Masandawana and Sudanese Giants, the leader of the country, have a mammoth task to illustrate who will occupy the summit of Group C. This is the CAF Champions League. Experience the top-of-the-table clash, Mamelodi Sundowns versus Al Hilal Sports Club, this Friday, 23 January at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Then on SABC radio stations at 8 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sports.
For the love of the game. Hurry! Get supersized savings at Spar for 4 days only.
Buy 750ml Sunlight dishwashing liquid bottle, Handy Anti Cream, and Domestos thick bleach. Buy all 3 for 75 Rand. Save 28 Rand. Or 2-litre Fanta, Sprite, or Stony regular range. Buy any 2 for 30. Save 10 Rand. Price is valid from 23 till 26 January. While stocks last. Maximum 5 deals per product per customer. Only at Spar.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, let's conclude my conversation with the central figure in this, that being Dr. Afia Siddiqui, this Pakistani neuroscientist who's been in prison now for over 23 years in the USA. My guest is Clive Stafford Smith, who's a human rights lawyer, founder, director of the Justice League. So Clive, you're saying you're very confident now that you will secure her release now. Why now compared to before? What is changed?
Well, what's really changed is Fawzia Siddiqui, her sister, who's this wonderful Harvard-educated doctor, bullied me into taking Afia's case on, and I'm privileged to do that. I really am. But I've spent 4,000 hours in the last 2.5 years traveling around to different places and getting the evidence we need to prove she's innocent and prove what she went through. So now we can prove the CIA was lying. We can prove that the ISI in Pakistan were behind all this. So I'm confident we can get justice. But we need a place for her to go because the Pakistan establishment were the bad guys here. They were the ones who sold her for a bounty to the CIA. And she can't go back to Pakistan. And so I've been trying to do my bit, and now I'm looking for other really good people who are willing to help support getting her the hospitalization she needs. We can fund it. We can raise the money. I'm not worried about that. But we need a good place to come to. And, look, I'm a neophyte to Durban. I've never been here before. But you people are very nice. It's a lovely place. We can get a healthcare here. If your hearts are in it, I would be immensely grateful for that sort of asylum.
Who would make that? Would make that call? I mean, that would have to go to government, right?
Yeah, I think the government has to do that. But your government's done some pretty cool things in terms of the ICJ and Netanyahu. I think your government's willing to stand up for justice in ways that some governments are not.
Have you spoken to them?
But it is
They've also gotten into trouble because of their stance regarding Israel and the ICJ. You know that. Have you spoken to the South African government at the moment?
Well, I've got into trouble over everything. Everything I do, I get into trouble for, and that's because it's right, and the powers that be don't want us to do it. So I'm not going to be too critical of your government for what they did.
Okay, what are you looking for to happen next, like as a matter of urgency?
Well, I've got to give a talk today in Port Shepstone and then go back to Joburg and do some more up there. And I hope we'll round up more wonderful people who are willing to support Afia. And then hopefully the government will be up for validating something that won't cost the good people of South Africa anything. But I do think we'll get you some plaudits in the entire world of Islam to begin with.
Well, do keep us in touch, and we'll certainly follow that story and see what comes out of it. Clive Stafford Smith, out to defend and in this case secure the release of Dr. Afia Siddiqui. It hasn't happened, and then if that happens, the release that is, he actually wants to push for her to get asylum in South Africa. Does that sound far-fetched? Believe it or not, Clive. Much appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
It's been a terrible week regarding those learners that went to school like what should have just been another ordinary day, isn't it? And things change so dramatically for them. When the story goes, the taxi driver taxiing these learners to school was late and had to really speed up and overtook 1 car, 2 cars, 3 cars, maybe more, and then smashed into a big truck, and as a result initially 12 learners died. We understand that number went up to 14 of them. There's been a memorial service for the Vanderbijl Park scholars today who's been covering the story is the SABC News reporter Tabiso Khadebe. Tabiso, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to your listener.
Thank you. As things go, these are the stories that must be so emotional for someone like yourself to cover, right?
Yes, of course, it was emotional because on Monday I was there on the scene when those parents went to see their children on that wreckage of that minibus taxi. It was so emotional seeing them crying, wanting answers as to what happened to their children, wanting the driver, because he was taken to the hospital after the accident with other 4 learners who were taken to the hospital with him. They wanted answers as to what had happened.
Okay, so tell us, run through today's memorial service then for us.
Yes, of course, we are supposed to have started at 11 o'clock. They started at 12. We expected the Premier of Gauteng to come and address the people of Sidibeng, but he was not here. Matume Chilwan, who's the MEC of Education, he has just given his address at the memorial service now. But in the morning when we arrived here, you could see the parents, they are still really in shock, especially as to what happened to their children on Monday, and they are looking for answers. But some of them are saying that they are encouraged because the charges have been changed from culpable homicide and reckless and negligent driving to murder and attempted murder. So he's facing 14 charges of murder and also 3 charges of attempted murder. So one of them who gave out the speech, one of the family members was saying that they are encouraged that the National Prosecuting Authority is working hard to sort of work with police to investigate this particular person, so that the suspect, or rather the accused, the taxi driver, if he's found in the wrong, he can be prosecuted. So this morning it was an emotional families. Most of the families were overwhelmed by emotions, especially when speaker after speaker on this children, this innocent soul that passed on Monday, and some of them, you will recall that 2 of them passed on yesterday. So it was emotional for their parents, especially when a DJ belting out gospel songs. It was a very touching moment again. Also, when they paid homage to their children, it was also touching, especially to us, the journalists who've been with them since Monday when it happened.
Are you able to share, just some stories and some moments from, friends or family members that you think we need to be hearing? I understand the overall mood must be just terrible to be there, just so somber, so desperate, so tragic.
Obviously, it was a somber event here at the Soul Sports Complex from their arrival. Even the people of Sidibeng, they are saying that because that tent was filled to capacity with people coming in their numbers to come and support the family, saying that they need justice. They seek justice, especially looking at what is happening in the transport fraternity, looking at that school transport, where you'll find that there is no compliance at all. People are taking these children to school without with unroadworthy vehicles, without having license, having this taxi, minibus taxis that they are driving. They don't have proper documents to be on the road. So now they are saying that this must be actually a lead to the government to be harsh on this particular. You will recall again yesterday in Lenasia, some people were arrested, some were found to have exceeded the limit of the passengers in the taxis. Some of them were driving unroadworthy vehicles. Some of them didn't have a PDP, like this one who has been arrested for this particular crash. He didn't have a PDP. The taxi that he was driving, it didn't have a license, a proper document to be on the road. Now 14 children has passed on. One of the ANC stalwart was saying that it was so heartbreaking to keep on counting, to keep on going down with those statistics. 13, 12, 14, and young souls are gone. Innocent people who were going to school, who were excited to make friendships, Ashraf, you will recall, it's a new year. Children are dying. It's a problem to the families. We listen to many stories of people who are seeking justice, especially from the National Prosecuting Authority.
And Thabiso, just to wrap up as we're on to news time now, so today is the memorial service. When will the burial take place, and will they be buried, together at one cemetery, at one service, or not?
and Friday it's going to be, many of them will be buried on Sunday at once, and then tomorrow there'll be 2 who are here in Sebokeng. They'll be buried tomorrow, and then the other one, I met the family yesterday. He's going to be buried in Limpopo, Yeah, he's going to be buried in Limpopo next week because they still have to take the body to Limpopo. But the 2 is going to be tomorrow, and then on Thursday, Premier is going to be here. There's going to be some sort of a mass funeral because they are going to be buried in their numbers.
All right, thanks for clearing that up. Tabiso Khadebe, thank you for your time. SABC News reporter covering the story of that tragedy, the memorial service of that horrific story of now the 14 learners killed in that accident a few days ago with the driver overtaking, crash. Terrible story. Here's the news headlines, just gone 4:30 with Ondala.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, pre-sentencing proceedings in the Julius Malema firearm case have been postponed to April for final heads of argument. The Minister of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Marupene Ramokgopa, says poverty and inequality remain structural challenges facing the country, and Western Cape authorities have warned of an impending drought across the province. The South African Weather Services is predicting lower than average rainfall for a second consecutive year. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Gous.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Edenvale, slow moving towards Giluli's interchange. The M1 northbound in Bromfontein, queuing towards Empire Road, and the N1 southbound in Fourways, queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive exit. In KZN, the N3 westbound is heavy traffic towards the M13 Paradise Valley off-ramp. The N3 outbound is where fatal crash is reported near Felix Dlamini Road, and the N2 northbound queuing towards Westwood Mall. In Cape Town, police and military reported on the R300 northbound at Hindle Road and the M5 southbound queuing towards the N2 highway exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
You certainly know when it's captured the imagination, and people have a Friday lunch, and we have it because I go for Friday prayers at the mosque, and they come back and they talk about the SA20 for the weekend, and you know it's captured the imagination.
And you've been talking about it the whole week. Well, yeah, we are starting with cricket this hour, where Sunrisers Eastern Cape and Paarl Royals face off tonight in qualifier 2 of the Betway SA20 at the Wanderers, with a place in the final up for grabs. The winner will advance to the final at Newlands on Sunday, where Pretoria Capitals are already waiting. The Paarl Royals come into the match with confidence after securing their first ever playoff win, while Sunrisers will be hoping to recover from their loss to the Capitals in qualifier 1. Meanwhile, South Africa's under-19 bowler JJ Basson has encouraged his teammates to stay positive at the ICC Under-19 World Cup in Zimbabwe and Namibia. This is despite their second loss of the tournament against the West Indies. The West Indies scored 234, while South Africa were bowled out for 179 in 38 overs. And up next, South Africa moves on to the Super 6 stage, where they will face Australia and Sri Lanka. And Basson says that the team's focus is firmly on those matches.
So we started off quite nicely, striking in the power play, which is a big thing for us as a team. I felt that we really kept the pressure going, and I felt that myself coming back into attack from our captain making that decision, big thing for me was to continue breaking the partnerships, and I felt that I executed quite nicely, grabbing 3 very important wickets in the middle period, and then coming back to the death was just trying to contain them and dotting up as much as possible.
In football, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso says that tonight's CAF Champions League match against Al Hilal is not a must-win, but a victory would give his team a big advantage in the group. Sundowns host the Sudanese side in Loftus Versfeld, with both teams level on 4 points. A win would move Sundowns to the top of the group and boost their chances of qualifying for the next round. And Cardoso has also warned that Al Hilal will be a tough opponent and says that Sundowns must make full use of their home advantage.
Great competition ahead. We're back on Champions League. Third match out of 6 nothing will be decided tomorrow. Obviously, a good result from our side gives us a good position in the competition. Big respect by the team of Al Hilal. It's a team with a lot of resources. Just take a look on how many players they have on national team. So we know the responsibility of this match. We know how the opponent plays, what they can do, but we know very, very well what we can do, what we want, the capacity we have, and how we have to approach the match with the responsibility, obviously, of it, but with the same level of motivation, of power, of energy, of will, of desire, of commitment, and following the plan of the game until the end. So that will approach us, obviously, more from the result we want. A match of details, let's pay attention to them so that we can be successful.
Elsewhere, Manchester United have confirmed that Casemiro will leave at the end of the season, with the club choosing not to extend his contract. The Brazilian joined from Real Madrid back in 2022, winning the 2023 Carabao Cup and the 2024 FA Cup, scoring 21 goals in 146 appearances. United opted against extending his deal as part of a midfield reshaping plan, with his high wages also a factor, freeing up funds for the transfer window. In terms of tennis, the Australian Open has changed its match times because temperatures are expected to reach 40 degrees Celsius tomorrow. Play on the main courts in Melbourne will begin at 10:30 in the morning instead of the usual 11 or 11:30, and matches on the outside courts will start as early as 10 a.m, with organisers warning fans to take precautions against the extreme heat and sun. Meanwhile, world number one Carlos Alcaraz powered through Corentin Moutet to reach the Australian Open fourth round. The 22-year-old won 6-2, 6-4 and 6-1, and now Alcaraz will face number 19 seed Tommy Paul on Sunday after Paul advanced when Alejandro Fokina retired injured. In motorsport, Ferrari have revealed that 2026 F1, the SF26, with Lewis Hamilton giving its first run on track in Italy. The SF26 features a return to glossy paint following 7 years of the matte finish trend, and Ferrari says that the red is now brighter and more intense, with more white around the cockpit and engine cover to create a bold, balanced look that makes the car instantly recognizable. And obviously, I'm really hoping that this car will help the team to win. That's it from our side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
And you're going to get your predictions worked out.
Yes.
Okay, looking forward to that.
The Morning Brief.
How did we get here? What is your best sense of how we got here?
You've seen what has happened between Randfontein and the reality that they need to have supplies, they need to have services, and that's where they start to get to interact with communities, and that's where all the problems start. Where they are looking for food, they're looking for supplies, they're looking for equipment that they need to use. So they get involved with the communities, and at the end of the day, you get the situation where they move into these communities and they start terrorizing them.
That's Yvette du Plessis, member of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, also a resident of Randfontein.
This is Dulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
So January is for intention setting. Less noise, more meaning. So say yes. Yes to beauty, yes to culture, yes to slowing down, yes to the Montreux Jazz Festival, Franschhoek, where Montreux meets Africa with curated global and African music in an intimate setting. So don't miss it. Get your tickets at the end of January and make this your yes moment. Montreux Jazz Festival, Franschhoek. Say yes. And the website is mjfsa.com for details.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So predictably, as we had heard earlier, the Malema pre-sentencing proceedings postponed will not finish today. Well, that is now confirmed. What's still ongoing is the markets. We can't stay without them. Paswani Mpatlele with me, Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. You've got news, Paswani, about Truworths.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Yes, Truworths, they gave us a business update, trading update for the 26 weeks ending December. They reported on flat sales. Clothings are not bought so much, reflecting a tough consumer environment. especially coming in Africa. South Africa sales down 3.6. Meanwhile, the UK was provided some growth, up 6.4%. Overall, when you look at their account sales, they make up 45%, down from 47, reflecting a healthier risk profile as more credit sales are coming down. They expect profits as per headline earnings per share up 2%, suggesting that they are currently supported by margins and cost controls to offset the weaker demand, and they are hoping for rate cuts, inflation, stronger rand to encourage consumer confidence to start buying up. Stock was down 1%. When you look into the markets, Eurozone business activities remain steady in expansion, supported by manufacturing output returning to growth, while we saw service sectors coming down. When you talk about tariffs, Ashraf, it's becoming having a lesser impact going forward when you think of it down from a rate of change perspective, which is good. But investors remain cautious in terms of geopolitics. Following the threats of tariff from Trump to EU, they sold US assets. This has helped gold, the likes of gold, to all-time highs of panic buying. It's arrived up to all-time highs, now sitting at $4,940 an ounce. Its volatility has spiked to levels we've seen last in October, which if it hit 33, we saw a 10% correction, so caution should be played there. Oil also got support from geopolitics when you think US and Iran supply risks, up 2.4, breaking out above 2.4% to $65.80 a barrel. Bitcoin there, it reflects its correlation and concentration risks linked to mega tech. When you think of our portfolio, it's just below 90K, sitting at $89,300, up 0.2. Platinum remains bullish, high, up 2.6%, and supporting risk-taking when you think of our local markets. JSE is up 0.5, adding to weekly gains, lifted by resource sector up 3.3%. Industrials drags down 1.2, financials down 0.7. US opened lower 1% or 0.1% across the board. Europe indices were flat generally, and when you look at the rand, yes, it's weaker relatively, but it's still strong. Rand against the dollar 16.20, rand against the euro 19.01, and rand against the pound 21.91.
All right, so we got all of that. Thank you for that, Paswani. Have a great weekend, right? Of course, being a Friday, we don't have the markets from 6 to 7, but there's lots more coming up, including a review of the week that you must not miss. Let's get to your thoughts. So, as always, react to the conversations we've had, react to the conversations regarding Dr. Afia Siddiqui, about Julius Malema, now that pre-sentencing proceedings postponed to April. So there's a deferment for a while now before we get into that once again. But anyway, what did you pick up from today? And then that terrible story of the memorial service of those 14 learners who had died. Also terrible indeed. And then just to tell you, we'll chat to Joshua Maponga coming up later as part of the Friday Fireside Chat. I need to pick out your thoughts. Let's start with the Siddiqui theme first.
Ashraf, JJS State Street. The story of that doctor imprisoned in America shows how dangerous it is to trust the Americans, because they have impunity. They can do whatever they like with whoever they like, and nobody challenging them. This is true America.
You think nobody's challenging them? I would say, in fact, you're challenging them, and maybe so was the guest that was on earlier on, right? Here's one about Malema.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's here in Cape Town. Ashraf, today I would like Julius Malema to be given a fine, not a prison sentence, because he's the first time offended. And also, there are a lot of people who do a lot of bad things here, they don't go to jail. So why him? Push him like this, you can see becoming so political. And when it's involved AfriForum, you should know that the people who done crime in the time of apartheid, none of them was arrested. And how can Malema be arrested for shooting on air? Those people from AfriForum, most of their parents, most of them benefited from the crime committed at the time of apartheid. They're still alive, they're still there, no one was arrested. And Malema didn't kill anybody. So he should not be sent to jail. He should just pay the fine. It's here in Cape Town. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you see, your point about how can he be arrested compared to maybe the AfriForum people. One part was, apartheid South Africa. In terms of the constitution from 94 onwards, in terms of that constitution, he has fallen foul of the constitution by shooting using a pistol. So that's why he was not just arrested. He's already been arrested and he has been convicted. Already, he's been found guilty. What we're talking about is the actual sentence. And your point, he must not be sent to jail, maybe a fine. Maybe that's really likely because he's a first-time offender and hasn't actually shot anybody. So maybe that would be true. But in fact, the rules are different from apartheid South Africa now, right?
Afternoon, Ashraf. Bula here. Concerning Malema's court case, I want that court to teach him a lesson. Because the guy is so disrespectful, he's so arrogant, he's full of himself. In his own words, he likes to say, I'm in charge of South Africa. Nobody can do anything to me. I remember he once said that. So now it's the time for the court to show him that he's not in charge. He's just a small boy. Thank you.
Okay, not in charge, just a small boy. I wonder who concurs with those. I mean, clearly very strong statement from you.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. What should happen to Julius Malema is what should happen to every normal South African citizen. All the factors should be borne in mind. The judge should not let her be pressurized by all these white supremacists to hand down a harsh sentence just because it's Julius Malema. Thank you, Romeo.
Thank you, Romeo. But maybe it's both. Maybe, as you quite say, first of all, why do we assume that the judge will be swayed by, public opinion? But that's the one part, the white supremacists. But the other part is supporters of Malema who make the point to say, we will not allow him to go to prison. Like it will, if he was convicted and sent to prison, he's been convicted, we won't allow it. That's another extreme too, isn't it?
Gore, Ashraf, your question. Oh, people are saying Malema may not go to jail because he's Malema. If Zuma, Jay-Z, the president, had gone to prison, not for any criminal activity or other thing that is done, but defying the commission, defying the Judiciary Commission, Zondo Commission, then he went to jail for 15 months for that. What do you think should happen to Malema? If it can happen to Jay-Z, former president, who is Malema?
Well, I mean, you're right about that. But I mean, again, defying the court and shooting a public thing, a pistol in public is not the same thing. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not the judge in terms of what the rules are applicable. But the principle that I agree with you is like they need to be treated. That means that the rule of law must be maintained and sustained no matter what.
Hello, Ashraf. I hope you're doing well, my brother. Look, man, I know it's not a big deal to some people, but they must wait until this thing happens to their kids. This whole Julius Malema thing. I think the reason why people are so worked up, it's because it seems as if this thing is Julius Malema is being treated so unfairly, because according to some people and some analysts, it feels as if like they are targeting the man, not the ball, So it seems as if Julius Malema is the target here. That is why most people, are so worked up. And this whole thing is being sponsored mostly by white people who hate Julius Malema. So now it shows that some white people, not all of them, they really, really hate black people. So the sooner we realize that, the better. This is Vuyo in KZN.
Thanks, Vuyo. But I mean, lots of sweeping statements there. Okay, maybe say some white people, you can get black people also may hate white people. But the point is, I don't know who's propping all this up. But the point is, did he shoot a pistol in a public space where he's not supposed to? And what is that going to do with white people? If he did it, he did it. And in terms of the law, that's why he's been convicted. And are you saying, do you think he's being treated unfairly? You said some people think he's being treated unfairly. I'm not too sure whether you meant some people as well as you too.
Good day, Ashraf. No one is above the law. But on the case of Malema, let's look at both sides. It's a bit tricky because the thing it's motivated come from the American side when the president and his team goes to America when Donald Trump asks them why this man is not arrested. And when they come back, that's when they start acting on that case. Don't you think something is cooked there? So we cannot say Malema must go to jail because Donald Trump said arrest that man. Yes, what he did, it was against the law. But if the law have dealt with him on that time where he pull out the gun and deal with the case,
without any motivations comes from the white monopoly, things would be fine. We could understand it.
But I mean, this has got nothing to do with Donald Trump. I mean, really. And why would we even think that South African courts will be swayed by Donald Trump?
Good afternoon, Mr. Atraf and your producer and all the listeners of SAFM. Mr. Atraf, I like to comment regarding to Mr. Julius Malema's case. According to me, AfriForum is pushing some agenda behind. Because if you can see, even if people is celebrating 31st of December, you can find at the beach people is doing that, like play with the firearms up, not pointing someone, and cricket, all of those things. So this thing was like celebrating. So because of Mr. Julius Malema is a leader, now AfriForum is trying to put Mr. Malema in jail, and he will never win because Mr. Malema is having a strong lawyer in South Africa, Mr. Ngogaitobi. You see that lawyer, Mr. Atraf, is a strong lawyer. Mr. Malema, he will never go to jail. That is my concern.
Okay, so thumbs up for you for Tembeka Ngogaitobi saying he's a strong lawyer. But yeah, I hear your point. Okay, there's more to come from you right after this. You can call in live too now.
What if your child could achieve better academic results in 2026? At Teneo School, they can. Our smart school system tracks every learner in real time and helps teachers spot gaps early. The results? With over 3,500 successful Teneo School matriculants, learners improve their average marks by 12% in the first year. Access affordable private schooling, no restrictive entry, fees starting from 3,000 Rand per month. Enroll now for 2026 at teneoschool.co.za. That's TENEO school.co.za.
Sorry I'm late, Sevi. Had to fetch my lucky putter. No worries, let's go. We're teeing off in an hour. Great. We're taking your car. Can't. It's already taken. What do you mean taken? It was right here when I left a few minutes ago. I sold it to Weber Cars and made a whole lot of green. Birdie told me that's the best way to sell your car. Not only the best way, it's the fair way. Kom ons vat die pad.
Don't be doof, be savvy. We buy cars geared for a fast sale, geared for you.
At Dis-Chem, get ready to start the year strong with better health and better rewards. Enjoy 20% off the lifestyle food range, plus an extra 10% off when you swipe your Better Rewards card. And get 2+1 cheapest free on any Future Life foods. Look out for the Better Rewards icon to get an extra 10% off on Better Rewards brands. Offers valid from Tuesday 13 January to Sunday 15 February. Only at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
I wonder what's your one question for Joshua Maponga, because he's the man that I'll be talking to as part of our Friday Fireside Chat that comes up just now. Any further comments about Dr. Afia Siddiqui and the call from her lawyer, obviously to get her released, but at the same time also hoping that if she's released, she can't stay in the USA and in Pakistan, but she needs to come to friendly South Africa. Comment from you. Reaction. Let's hear it. Let's get to Anonymous first. Anonymous, hi. You want to talk about Malema?
Yes, Ashraf. I want to disagree with those who are saying, those who want to put the color in this issue. Because, Ashraf, you see, myself, I'm a black person and I want to see Julius Malema arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. I want to see that so that we can see that we are all equal before the law.
Okay, but in fact, he's already been arrested, meaning he was arrested. That's why he's been convicted. But so you want to see him where? Pay a fine or go to prison? Which one?
In prison. In prison.
My gut feeling, I don't think that'll happen. But anyway, thanks for that call, Anonymous. Let's get to more comments from you. And there's a range of other thoughts. Ashraf looks like he's against Malema. He's still pushing the why he shot in the public place. Isn't that why he was convicted? What was he convicted for? Wearing a red t-shirt? I mean, seriously, what was he convicted for? There's further comments about from many others about just the reflection on the memorial service and just how sad that's been. And there's a couple more that I want to pick out in terms of text. Let me get to those text messages just now. In the meantime, there's more from you. Let's see. Malema must not be sent to jail. There's another one on that one there. Yes, another. He won't go to jail. Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Atraf and your producer and all the listeners of SAFM. Mr. Atraf, I like to comment regarding to Mr. Julius Malema's case. According to me, AfriForum is pushing some agenda behind, because if you can, even if people is celebrating 31st of December, you can find at the beach people is doing that, like play with the firearms up, not pointing someone, and cricket, all of those things. So this thing it was like celebrating. So because of Mr. Julius Malema is a leader, now AfriForum is trying to put Mr. Malema in jail, and he will never win, because Mr. Malema is having a strong lawyer in South Africa, Mr. Ngogaitobi. You see that lawyer, Mr. Atraf, is a strong lawyer. Mr. Malema, he will never go to jail. That is my concern.
Okay, sorry. I'm playing that again by mistake. I should say that, not for emphasis, not because of the lawyer he talks about. I'm not too sure why he didn't get deleted. There's more comments about Julius Malema early on.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Flores from a beauty warm winelands. Juju, if there's one person that I don't envy today, Ashraf, then it's that lady judge who's presiding over Juju's case. But let me tell you, Juju's not going to get a sentence. He will just get a fine, 100,000, and perhaps 3 months, 3 months suspension. We need Juju in politics. We cannot lose him now. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right, but that's two different parts. That we need him, we can't lose him is a personal choice. In terms of the law, that can't be a factor, can it? But I think you may be right that I expect, well, look, now it's postponed till August, right, to April. I think he'll get a fine, as in a cash fine, and suspended sentence too.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Mbongo Sundisa Mbuyisa. Mr. Ashraf, I think Julius Malema, by passing those EFF supporters, he just want to scare the magistrate on his matter there. Otherwise, I don't think it's gonna work like in his favor. If you remember that altercation between him and that magistrate, I think he's just wasting his time. He must just prepare for appeal. That's all I can say to him.
Okay, you have made your point. Who else has a point?
I think, Ashraf, what we need to consider when we look into this pre-sentencing mitigation is the fact that justice should always be seen to be fair. And one of the things that the social worker today argued is that, of course, he's a first-time offender, and the fact that he is a servant of the people, the leader of the people, many people depend on him, including his family and the society that he serves back in Limpopo or Polokwane. I think that's also what his defense team will use when they argue, so that they convince the magistrate that he should avoid jail time, maybe a suspended sentence, maybe a fine. That's what they would mitigate. But another issue that I think should be interesting, that the magistrate needs to consider when she hands down her sentence, is the fact that, did Malema pose any threat when he discharged that firearm? Was he angry? Was he targeting anyone? Of which the video shows us that he was in a celebration. He was celebrating. So there was no intention to harm anyone. Maybe just suspend that sentence. Rule that he should not have any license, but I don't think it's necessary for him to go to jail unless there will be other factors. That's just my take.
Well, I mean, you're right. I think in terms of your analysis, that you look at the intention, you look at the mood, you look at the tone, and you look at whether anybody actually was under threat. And I think the answer to all clearly was that was not the case, right? And it was celebratory. I get your point completely. It doesn't make it right, but it was celebratory, which would be sufficient mitigation, I think, compared to someone who's actually threatening someone, because that was not the case. Right, so what we're doing on a Friday, of course, we have the fireside chat, and my guest is Joshua Maponga. We're going to have a really interesting chat, that's all I can tell you. Let's get the news first. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg.
Thank you. Ashraf Malema case adjourned. Concern over poverty and inequality. Good day to you. The case against EFF leader Julius Malema has been adjourned to the 15th of April for closing arguments. The East London Magistrates Court in the Eastern Cape heard pre-sentencing arguments today in which the defence called social worker Jessie Thompson. In her statement, she argued for a fine to be imposed on Malema. He was convicted last year for the unlawful possession of a firearm and ammunition, discharging a firearm in a built-up area, and reckless endangerment. The incident occurred during the EFF's anniversary celebrations in 2018. The Minister of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Maropene Ramakgopa, says poverty and inequality remain structural challenges facing the country. She's released the Mid-Term Development Plan Biannual Progress Report for the period April to September last year.
Poverty and inequality remains entrenched with a Gini coefficient of 0.63. South Africa is making progress, of course, but more must be done to ensure economic recovery translates into jobs, income, and improved well-being for all. 19.2 million social grants beneficiaries have been supported, providing a critical safety net that I've just been alluding to. 452,302 individuals benefited from food and nutritional programs, showing momentum in government intervention to increase access to nutritious food to all vulnerable individuals.
The family of 17-year-old Puleng Mapala, one of the 14 learners who died in Monday's fatal crash in Thunderbale Park south of Johannesburg, say they're happy that the scholar transport driver will now face murder charges. The driver, Ayanda Tutla, was initially charged with culpable homicide, but he now faces charges of murder and attempted murder. Mapala's cousin, Isabella, was speaking at a memorial service for the learners at Sebokeng in Gauteng's Vaal.
The most beautiful gift that Puleng has left us as a family is her TikTok page, because now we get to see her in her element, laughing, dancing. As tragic as her passing has been, I think the most important thing we can do as families is remember the joy that these children were to us. I think in the first interview that my uncle gave, he said, this is an outright case of murder and it can never be labeled as culpable homicide. We are glad that the courts are in agreement with that, and we hope that justice will prevail in whatever format that it can. Although the biggest tragedy is that we'll never get our children back.
Western Cape Premier Alan Windey say they've initiated 2 requests to the National Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister for a disaster declaration in response to the water and fire crisis in his province. He says a declaration will enable the province to redirect funds and resources to manage the situation.
We have a number of towns that are definitely in that disaster space where they themselves are also calling for a local disaster. Now we'll be calling for a provincial disaster. Primarily I think of Knysna, where they're getting down to days worth of water. Other towns in the region also you can see under huge pressure in the Garden Reef, under huge pressure in the Karoo. So the disaster declaration enables us to put further emergency mechanisms in place.
Finally, Australia's Internet Safety Commissioner says social media companies do not want the country's ban on children under the age of 16 using platforms to work in case other countries follow suit. The BBC's Katie Watson has more.
Julie Inman-Grant admitted that standing up to big tech companies with deep pockets could be intimidating, and she said she received regular death threats. But just over a month into Australia's social media ban for the under-16s, she's not deterred. Recent data released by the eSafety Commission shows that in the first 2 days of the ban, 4.7 million accounts were closed on the 10 platforms targeted by the legislation, which include YouTube, TikTok, Instagram and Snapchat.
Top story, the Minister of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation says poverty and inequality remain structural challenges facing the country. And of course, news just in, the case against the EFF leader Julius Malema has been adjourned to the 15th of April for closing arguments. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg Khus.
In sports, the Sawa Sunrisers and Royals battle for SA20 final place. SAFA plans meeting with Minister Mackenzie to drive AFCON 2028 bid forward, and Australian Open to start earlier tomorrow over heat forecast. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Weltevreden Park, slow moving towards 14th Avenue. The N12 westbound in Alberton, slow moving towards the R59 Reading interchange, and Dustpoort Tunnel in Pretoria, slow moving at the tunnel. In KZN, there's a crash on the N2 southbound after Inanda Road, an incident on the N3 southbound after Hilton Avenue, and a stationary vehicle on the N2 southbound after Solomon Mhlangu Drive. In Cape Town, Strand Road eastbound in Stickland, queuing towards the R300 highway, Kuburg Road northbound in Tableview, queuing towards Blauberg Road, and congestion on the N2 outbound at De Beers Avenue, the left lanes closed. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program, evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa, to SAFM in 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
So coming up next, we have what I think is going to be a really interesting conversation, right? And that is with Joshua Maponga, right? That comes up just now. But in the meantime, January, as you know, is for intention setting. Less noise, more meaning. So say yes. Yes to beauty, yes to culture, yes to slowing down, yes to the Montreux Jazz Festival, France Hook, where Montreux meets France, or rather, no, Montreux meets Africa with curated global and African music in an intimate setting. Don't miss it. Get your tickets at the end of January. Make this your yes moment. Montreux Jazz Festival, France Hook. Say yes. The website you can visit is mjfsa.com for details.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so of course we're not going to play much of the other comments from earlier because on a Friday we're going to fireside chat mode, and for the next, up to the hour, up to 6 o'clock, my guest is Joshua Maponga. Now, he's done lots of things, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Tanzania. I have no idea where he is. We're going to find out. You, by the way, can put your one question that you'd like to ask him, and particularly if you know him, and you've connected with him in the past, you may want to just shout that out too. But for now, the title says Joshua Maponga, and there's a whole lot of words attached to the title. I'm going to ask him, in fact, what does he call himself? Joshua, good to chat to you. It's been a while.
Greetings, Ashraf. Long time no see, my brother.
I know, we last chatted, I don't know, about 8 years ago maybe.
You're still holding it down. Well done.
That's clearly the case, right. Now listen, I think when we spoke, did I call you Bishop Joshua? That's changed now. Yeah?
Hey, my brother, even when you are in school, you change your size of shoes. From grade 1 to grade 5, grade 7, Form 1, by the time you get college, you cannot be saying you're putting on the same shoes you're putting on in kindergarten. And if shoes must grow, why not the brains?
So what does that mean? When you say the brains have grown, as the brains have grown, you've dropped the bishop title. What is the brains taught you?
I'm more into cultural and Pan-African space, and some of the activities there would compromise the religious title of bishop. So for the sake of protecting the weaker brethren, I thought I would drop the title and go with Changambire, which is the originators and the genesis, the progenitors of Mbire, which is my root name for the Karanga clan.
I see.
Who are the beginners and the builders of the Great Zimbabwe. Yes.
All right. Now, I mean, you've got there's about 5 titles next to your name. How would you describe yourself in the work you do now?
Just call me a brother. Man. Just call me
just a brother. No, but I understand. But what I'm saying in terms of the work you do, I've got author, philosopher, social entrepreneur, founder of Farmers of Thoughts. What am I missing there?
You're missing the me part that is not Maponga, but being Maponga is a progressive principle. Continuous growth into purpose and being. So you cannot say, I am Ashraf Gada. You're not Ashraf Gada. Because that is present perfect tense. You are present continuous tense. You are becoming Ashraf Gada. Well, there's still much more that Ashraf Gada is becoming that we don't know.
So you are being Joshua Maponga. Yeah?
That's it, in the participle mode.
Okay. Where are you now?
I've just landed literally 30 minutes ago. I was in Dar es Salaam. I've just landed in Harare. And in my way to Masvingo, the day ago, I was in Accra, Ghana. And a day before then, 2 days prior, I was in Zambia. So yeah, I'm everywhere. I'm in Africa. I think that's a better title.
They may make you the leader of the African continent with the rate that you're traveling up and down with the different countries. Would you like that?
We're checking the terrain. We're checking the terrain so that by the time we talk about African issues, we need to know how the rivers in Ghana have been polluted by the Chinese, how the rivers in Mazoe, what is happening in Congo, what are they doing in Tanzania, and you cannot get this thing on media. You need to get there and see it yourself so that you become a live, positive, commentary center for African conversations towards the Pan-African ideology.
All right.
That we are now propagating.
So you mentioned Pan-Africanism a few times already. So what is your purpose now? What do you do? What do you embark on? What fires your imagination these days?
What actually excited me was to come across this old dream that Nkwame Nkrumah, Kenneth Kaunda, Julius Nyerere, Robert Mugabe, and the Lumumbas and Sankaras had in mind, the one Africa, including Haile Selassie. And when I visited the ideology and I read through the documentation, I felt it was a noble task. Unfortunately, most of them, if not all of them, have died. But I think that dream is worth pursuing. We need new blood, new energy to pick up the cracks, the impetus, the very core of what Pan-Africanism was all about in the heads of our forefathers, and particularly our heroes, the African continent, and see how best we can resuscitate that dream into the modern age. And possibly, as we are moving into the global space, that the African child can also join the global community as a united Africa.
What's your interpretation of Pan-Africanism, and how do you internalize it and how do you externalize it?
I internalize it in terms of the ideology and its inception and initial perception, which was a revolutionary platform of neighboring countries and even individualities and ideologies that were pro the liberation of the African child. And many, if not all, of the African leaders right now are students of Pan-Africanism. But the danger of its externalization is that moving out from Pan-Africanism, which was indigenously driven and started, they moved over into a colonial Pan-Africanism, where these Pan-Africanism become the inheritors of the same system that was oppressing them. So ANC was fighting the Afrikaners, only for them to get into parliament and become the Afrikaners themselves. ZANU-PF, same thing. SWAPO, same thing. Zambia, UNDP, same thing. So you tend to find that people jumped on the bus and they fought over who must drive the bus. But they forgot that the bus is still going in the same direction, which the previous driver was driving. So Pan-Africanism for me is not just an ideology, but it's actually a mental, it's a system transformation and an entire refurbishing and reconstruction of the governance, business, economics, agriculture, sports, recreation, health, technology, and ultimate spirituality. So how do we turn all these wheels
So, in the pursuit of establishing, Pan-Africanism as an ethos, what needs to be done?
I think most importantly, what my passion right now has been the transformation of the software. And by software, I mean that the quality of thinking. And many African politicians and young people think that when they put a new leader, politics will change. Unfortunately, we've done Mandela Diba, we've done Thabo Mbeki, we've done Muthlande, we've done Zuma, now we're on Ramaphosa, and people think that leadership is a problem. No, the system is a problem. When a president takes a vow into an office that he is a president of a republic, what does the republic mean? It means that you are going to be using Roman Dutch laws, still subject the people to the colonial system and protecting multinational organizations that have been running business in your country and using the legal framework. Nothing will change. Change leaders, but don't change the system.
So what would,
so
when you say change the system, what should the change in system?
Yes,
what did you change to?
Sadly, that in the midst of New Africa, we're actually stuck with an old system. We're trying to and squares.
Yeah, sorry, just repeat the last part. Oh, I think you're on mute. If you can just unmute yourself. You've done it.
In square holes.
All right, just to repeat so we don't lose it.
We're trying to fit.
I was asking about systems. Yeah,
we're trying to fit.
Yeah.
Yes, we're trying to fit round poles in square holes. The African worldview is of a round of it. Rounding cutters. The round, everything is round, but the European comes with squares, square houses, Tuscans, and the rest of square books. And we're trying to fit our African worldview and epistemologies into a square concept of Eurocentric Roman Greco calendars, birthdays, Christmases, and the calendar itself. Our time has been squared up instead of being round. We are cosmical as Africans, but now we're Gregorian, and that shift on its own poses a problem to our education and our social and cultural expression. We are trying to fit into the Western culture, celebrating Christmas and Easters, which are way away from our calendars and our mythologies. The question is, what are we benefiting from this system? We have been usurped, we have been colonized, now we are cooperating with colonization.
We are co-parenting with colonization. But I mean, when you talk about potential changes, that makes the assumption that every African country will think the same as you. I mean, that's not true, isn't it? Even within African countries, they have difference of opinions and expressions, so they may not latch on to what you're saying.
I mean, philosophy for me is I found more freedom in my philosophical space, where I had an opportunity to think without being limited by religion or by political bias or cultural expression. I am quite informed in terms of cultural expression, cosmology, from the Dingas to the Maasais to the Gikuyus, the Karangas, the Shonas, the Zulus, Xhosa, Sotho, and I've traveled the width and breadth of this continent in pursuit of knowledge and understanding. And in the midst of all that, I am actually well informed to make a conclusion that some of what we think is our African culture is actually colonial culture. But African culture, in conversation with itself, we are brothers and sisters. And when left to ourselves, we can always find each other.
Okay. Actually, as we're talking, there's news that Nelson Chamisa confirming that he's to return to politics in Zimbabwe. Any thoughts on that?
No, it's a joke, that guy, man. It's a big joke. He has squandered what I might want to call his political mileage. And you always, I think I must go and join ministry and become a pastor or something like that. He does not have what it takes to stand his ground, drive an agenda, transform the society. People love him, people loved him, but it's sad to say that his position right now has become that of a sympathizer. Even in the midst of his political mileage, he was still doing business with ZANU-PF and the beneficiary of the same system that he was fighting. So, as far as I'm concerned, I wish he can take people more seriously. He's a joke. Nelson Chamisa is a joke.
He's a joke. What do you think of President Ramaphosa, South Africa's president?
President Ramaphosa is a custodian, he's a stooge. He is an Uncle Tom protecting the colonial system. And he is a business CEO of a company called South Africa. And his business is to make sure that the multinational companies keep their hold on the South African economy. And he's doing a good job in doing that. Ramaphosa, one of the best CEOs you can ever find. Give him a job to do, give him his task, he will deliver. Whether people are happy or not, that's none of his business, as long as the bosses are happy.
Okay, and what about leadership in Tanzania?
Leadership in Tanzania is a crisis because Nyerere was responsible for the liberation of South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Namibia. But in the midst of that, is all leading political parties forget with the people, and they begin to become institutions that can destroy themselves. And one of the countries which should have been a leader in democratization and social empowerment and sovereignty sunk itself into monarchy, anarchy, and absolute destruction of its very foundation. It's sad to hear that the elections of Tanzania went away with thousands of people that were killed because the system forgets itself. The system starts servicing itself instead of servicing the community. It's sad. And the same story in South Africa, same story in Namibia, same story in Zimbabwe, same story in Zambia, ultimately even in America. Now Tanzania, there's no difference. The democratic system does not work. I wish I could shout on top of the world. If democracy works, then go to Venezuela and ask them, what is democracy doing here when America is hijacking? And so this whole thing, man, we need to rethink Ashraf Ghada. We need to stop becoming propagators of propaganda and start becoming thinkers. Africa is now 65 years into democracy. From Ghana to South Africa, tell me that democracy has worked. Show me one country where it has worked.
Some may say it may not be perfect, but it's the best we. Some may say it may be the best we have.
Yeah, but Ashraf Ghada, you're an intelligent man. Type on your computer right now the top 10, 15 most progressive countries in the world. Singapore comes top. Dubai comes next. Britain comes next. Russia comes. America comes. And Vietnam, North Korea, Japan. Of all those countries, show me how many of them are democratic.
Okay. I don't need to type it because I get your point. I mean, I'm aware of what you're trying to say, including Saudi Arabia in that as well.
Africa, the whole of Africa has been told that the only way to be successful is democracy, which is not true. The Great Zimbabwe, Pyramids of Giza, in Sudan, in Benin. Tell me that those things, those systems, in Abyssinia. Tell me Ethiopia and all we build all those systems on democracy. Tell me.
All right, so if we have to move away from the democracy that does not work, right? What do we move?
Demon crazy. Not democracy, demon crazy.
Demon crazy, okay. To move away from that does not work. What do we move it to the point you can't do it like a switch where you just switch on the lights on and off? I mean, what would be the process? I'm very interested to know what because I'm sure you thought about it.
You know, I've done lots of consulting in the business environment for more than 15 to 20 years. And a good company comes with a strategy. And a good strategy that is not implemented is as good as no strategy at all. And a bad strategy that is implemented violently always succeeds. So the question is, do we have political will to hybridize the democratic system, the indigenous governance system, and come up with a new format in which we can rule ourselves? I mean, look at China. It's working on what we call benevolent dictatorship. Look at Singapore. They're working on meritocracy. And look at London. They're working with the monarchy and seemingly Republican democratic system on the side, lower and upper house of commons. So as Africa, we need to find what works for us. But as I'm sitting right now, I can announce to the whole of South Africa and the whole world over, particularly to Africa, that the way we are practicing democracy, which are the dictates of colonialism and capitalism, is not working. We are literally electing thieves to go and steal on our behalf.
Democracy.
And there's no recourse.
Okay. Democracy is not working, as per Joshua Maponga.
No, it's not working.
That's what he says. I wonder what you say.
Maybe in South Africa it's working.
No, but why are you saying maybe now? You just said it's not working now. You're like, maybe it's working.
Oh, no. From my corner, it's not working, but it looks like you are taking a middle ground. That maybe we have a little bit better democracy than Zimbabwe. Hey, wait until you touch land. You'll be worse than Zimbabwe. But maybe those Afrikaners that are in America have already given you a warning shot that you touch land, you are in a mess.
Well, listen, talking of the USA, This is a quote from you. If Trump is king, then America is the economic empire. It will collapse in our generation. Tell me.
That wasn't a prophecy. That's history. That has already happened. As of 2 days ago, Brazil and China have just signed the first agreement to start trading away from the US dollar. And if the BRICS countries, South Africa can sign that, India can sign that, Russia can sign that, the economic sovereignty of America will close before the end of June this year. I can make that as a statement. Well-informed statement.
So just explain so we understand what you mean. When you say the economic sovereignty of America will close by end of June, that means economic sovereignty and in terms of the hegemony regarding the dollar, right? Yeah?
The dollar has been the main trade currency of the whole world. Now that oil has moved and smaller businesses are moving away through the BRICS and through the tariffs that America is putting on goods around the world might start looking for new markets because America is not the only consumer. And once we begin to see these three pillars, which are product and services, currency exchanges, and the exchange rate for oil, which is the currency and the breathing and the bloodline of the whole world, if those three pieces of businesses are moving away from the American dollar, I don't even need to make a prophecy. It's a reality. America is collapsing.
Let's go back. I mean, you've never been short of opinions. When you were the bishop and now, you've always had strong views. Let's go back. I'm interested to know your early days in your life. I mean, where are you from, where you come from, what inspired you, what can you remember about your early days that put you on this path now?
Most of the stuff that inspired me has expired me. I mean, I dreamt of becoming a big preacher, big pastor, running, work for the Lord and take people to heaven one day and sit with them around the throne of God and, receive my reward when Jesus comes back again. I mean, that was inspired by big preachers, C.D. Brooks, E. Cleveland, Charles Bradford, Benjamin Reeves, Jones, T.D. Jakes, name it. I mean, I lived in that space, and for crying out loud, I did that job and I did it quite good, But when you start reading and researching and discover, hey, why do we have gates in heaven if it is a safe place? You start scratching your head, and maybe heaven is not such a safe place after all, And if God is good at forgiving people, then how many apples did Adam eat? Hey, then you scratch your head again, And if God says to another man, that man has died, go and sleep with his wife, your brother's wife, your brother has died, go and sleep with his wife. And you start scratching your head again. What is this? And if God makes another woman pregnant, and then he says to Joseph, don't divorce her, I've been pregnanted here. And God is my example. Should I also go and pregnant the woman next door? Hey, and you scratch your head again. And all this thing about biblical mythologies and the amount of colonization, the interpretation of the Bible, the subtraction of text in the Bible, Islam on one side, Christianity on one side, Judaism on one side, Allah, Jesus, and Yahweh. Can they just sit somewhere in a private place, the three gods, and talk by themselves and leave human beings out of the mess? Then my mind literally moved on to a different level altogether. Why are we fighting the wars that belong to God? Why must a Muslim kill a Christian? Why must a Jew kill a Muslim? And at the center of this, we don't want to say it, is religion. So God is a problem. Allah is a problem. Yahweh is a problem. Religion is a problem. It divides us.
But is religion the problem? Or is it the absence of people embracing the compassionate examples of religion?
We don't have those people that have that compassion. Because religion by itself is an abstract theory fit on papers. It has no emotion, it has no blood, it has no personality. It's just an idea. And people are fighting over an idea that there is a heaven, there is Allah, there is Jesus, and there is God somewhere in the sky. No one has seen this guy.
So as a former bishop, do you then not believe in God?
Oh man, the kingdom of heaven is in you. I believe in the God that is right here, and I must treat you, my brother, as I treat myself. For me, that is the basic form, expression of spirituality. This religion that is institutionalized away from personal responsibility has made enemies out of each other.
Okay. Yeah, so much to digest, if I can call it that, from Joshua Maponga. The man doesn't stop talking. In fact, he doesn't stop expressing his opinions. Now, listen, we're happy to take, you're laughing, you're chuckling, happy to take maybe 2 or 3 calls. If you have comments, quick call, sharp calls, here's the number to call in, 086 000 2032. And of course, you can challenge him. That's up to you. WhatsApp 0614 104 107. Do that right away. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. A quick look at the headlines. The KZN Department of Transport says it's using technology to keep unroadworthy Scarlet transport vehicles off the road. The case against the EFF leader Julius Malema has been adjourned to April for closing arguments. And the Mossel Bay municipality in the Western Cape says it has a year's worth of water, despite predictions that the province will receive less than average rainfall this coming year. That's SAFM News. I'll have the full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Midrand queuing towards New Road, the M1 southbound in Melrose slow moving towards Glenhove Road, and on 14th Avenue in Constantia Kloof, there's a crash at Hendrik Potgieter Road. In KZN, Wakesley Road southbound has heavy traffic towards Serena Road and a stationary vehicle on the N3 southbound at Cliffdale Interchange. In Cape Town, the inbound is slow-moving at Baden-Powell Drive. That's due to a large fire in the area. Stellenbosch Artiel Road eastbound in Delft queuing towards Symphony Way, and Marine Drive northbound queuing towards Woodbridge Island. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
To me, you're going to give us the your predictions just now. What are you starting with?
Well, I'm starting off with the Sunrisers Eastern Cape, who are taking on Paul Royals tonight in qualifier 2 of the Betway SA20 at the Wanderers, with a place in the final up for grabs. The winner will advance to the final at Newlands on Sunday, where Pretoria Capitals are already waiting. Paul Royals come into the match with confidence after securing their first ever playoff win, while Sunrisers will be hoping to recover from their loss to the Capitals in qualifier 1. Still with cricket, Proteas coach Shukri Conrad says that he's confident that David Miller will be fit in time for the T20 World Cup in India next month. Miller picked up an adductor injury while playing for the Paul Royals in the SA20 on Monday and has been ruled out of the upcoming T20 International Series against the West Indies. The squad has also been affected by injuries to Tony De Zorzi and Donovan Ferreira, who have been replaced by Ryan Rickleton and Tristan Stubbs. Conrad is hopeful that Miller will recover in time, and I think a whole lot of people are also hoping that Miller will recover in time for the T20 World Cup. In football, SAFA President Danny Jordan says that they will soon meet Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie to discuss a bid to host the 2028 Africa Cup of Nations. Now, CAF's deadline for expressions of interest is the 1st of February, and if successful, it will be South Africa's first official AFCON win, having hosted back in 1996 and 2013 as a last-minute replacement. And Mackenzie is also keen to bring the FIFA Women's World Cup to Africa. But with this particular AFCON, I do know that they do want to co-host it with the likes of Botswana. And Mamelodi Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso says that tonight's CAF Champions League match against Al Hilal is not a must-win, but a victory would give his team a big advantage in the group.
Great competition ahead. We're back on Champions League. Third match out of 6. Nothing will be decided tomorrow. Obviously, a good result from our side gives us a good position in the competition. Big respect by the team of Al Hilal. It's a team with a lot of resources. Just take a look on how many players they have on national team. So we know the responsibility of this match. We know how the opponent plays, so what they can do, but we know very, very well what we can do, what we want, the capacity we have, and how we have to approach the match with the responsibility, obviously, of it, but with the same level of motivation, of power, of energy, of will, of desire, of commitment, and following the plan of the game until the end. So that will approach us, obviously, more from the result we want. a match of details. Let's pay attention to them so that we can be successful.
In tennis, the Australian Open has changed its match times because temperatures are expected to reach 40 degrees Celsius on Saturday, and play on main courts in Melbourne will begin at 10:30 in the morning instead of the usual 11 or 11:30. In motorsport, Ferrari have revealed the 2026 F1 car, the SF26, with Lewis Hamilton giving it its first run on track in Italy. The SF26 features a return to glossy paint. This is following 7 years of the matte finish trend, and Ferrari says that the red is now brighter and more intense, with more white around the cockpit and engine cover to create a bold, balanced look that makes the car instantly recognizable. Before I say goodbye, yes, predictions for this weekend. I'm going to start off with Sundowns versus Al Hilal. Sundowns because they are at home. Arsenal, Man United. I think Arsenal are going to win.
So Sundowns will beat Al Hilal.
Yes.
And then Arsenal, Man United?
I think Arsenal is going to win.
Okay. You don't have to feel sad about it.
No.
Just carry on. Yeah. Right? What else?
Because I'm going against my team. But truth is the truth. Sharks versus Stormers. And then also Paul Royals versus Sunrisers, Eastern Cape. I think Sunrisers is going to be in the final against the Cape. The
In the
Pretoria
final,
Capitals.
but who's going to win it ultimately? Because you've got two
Oh,
predictions.
yes.
Because the final is also Sunday, so you'll be done.
Ideally, Pretoria Capitals. I think Pretoria.
They won, they topped the lot, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretoria Capitals.
Anything else we're missing out on?
No, nothing else.
What's your plans for the weekend?
I am actually doing the red carpet for the Limpopo Sports Awards tomorrow. So that is my plans
Okay.
for this weekend.
Who's going to win?
Don't know.
I mean, you're doing the red carpet and you don't know. Okay.
I don't know who's going to win. We'll just have to wait and see.
All right. We will talk about it on Monday.
Well,
Have a good
that's
weekend.
it.
Yeah.
As we celebrate 90 years of existence, SAFM takes you back to the voices that shaped a nation.
Olani Gwala will be back again for you 6 to 9 Monday here on SAFM.
And
Thanks, Tolani. Good morning and welcome to Morning Talk with me, Kim Gabadeli.
The name is Bongi Kwala. Good to be with you till midday today. Let's engage South Africa.
Welcome to Morning Talk on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader, with me, Rowena Bird.
90 years of trusted voices. This is SAFM. The Morning Brief.
How did we get here? What is your best sense of how we got here?
You've seen what has happened between Randfontein and the reality that they need to have supplies, they need to have services, and that's where they start to get to interact with communities, and that's where all the problems start. Where they are looking for food, they're looking for supplies, they're looking for equipment that they need to use. So they get involved with the communities, and at the end of the day, you get the situation where they move into these communities and they start terrorizing them.
That's Yvette du Plessis, member of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, also a resident of Randfontein.
This is Dulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get an update into the markets for the last day for the week with Jimmy Moyaha.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. We're closing out the markets in absolutely smashing territory. New all-time highs on the JSE. The gold price is less than $50 away from that $5,000 finance level. The silver price is less than 20 cents away from $100. The platinum price is approaching $2,800 of finance. Palladium has gone above $2,000 of finance. On the currency side of it, the rand equally is strong against all of the major currencies. 16 rand 16 against the US dollar. We might even break that 16 rand level. We've come back below 22 rand against the British pound, back below 19 rand against the euro. It's only the Australian dollar that's still above 11 rand at 11 rand and 10 cents. The price of a Bitcoin just below 90,000 at 88,800, still below 1.5 million with that stronger rand. On the equity side of it, international markets, bit of a mixed bag. European markets were down, whereas Asian markets and US markets were in the green. Our own local markets, because of those smashing commodities prices, are up on the day's trade. Resource stocks up 3.4%. Industrials down 1.1%. Financials down 0.5%. But the all-share closing out the day 0.75% to, 2/3% rather, to the green. The top 40 was up 0.75%. This is a big win going into the final week of the month of January. I suspect that this momentum will definitely continue going into next week, and I suspect that $5,000 finance level on the gold price that we've been eyeing is likely to be reached as soon as next week. We got dangerously close early today in the early hours as we came out of Asian session, and as we were preparing for the London trading session, we got dangerously close to that $5,000 finance level. But I noted that in the case of gold and silver, both of those futures contracts did cross above those key thresholds. So definitely signs of momentum within the market, signs of a big win for us on the local front with that stronger rand and the stronger equity prices. We take that going into the weekend. We'll come back next week, see how January closes out, because as we enter into February, we're going to be preparing for South Africa's conversations around budget and other things that will affect our own local markets. But for now, the stronger rand, all-time highs on the all share, stronger commodities prices, and a win going into the weekend. Back to you, Ashraf.
And it's the weekend for you, absolutely, Jimmy. Great to connect with you as always. Have a great weekend. We will talk on Monday.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Well, when myself and Temba and Key spoke, we did predict that to you, man. Our guest will have strong views, and he's got many. Before and now, Joshua Mapwanga, former bishop. So those who are talking about why is he speaking on behalf of Christianity? In fact, he's not speaking on behalf of Christianity because, as you may have heard, he's not the bishop any longer. There's also been questions about who funded him or who funds him now. Where does he make his money to travel? We'll get to that in a second. Let me start with this, Joshua. I've got a call from Churchill in Mthatha. Churchill, hi.
Hi, Ashraf. Ashraf, you know, I just love Joshua Mapwanga. You know, when he speaks on a lot of issues that are affecting Africans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm an educator. I always say to my kids, if somebody says that color is white, the next question that you need to ask is, why does that person say it's white? Who said it's white, and what are the reasons? Because one of the reasons why we're here as Africans, we need to think outside what we've been told by our colonizers. I love him when he speaks on the issue of Christianity, which is diluted Christianity that was brought to us when they wanted to enslave us. I love him when he speaks on education, the way we do our things. And I love him when he says, democracy is not the best system. There are many countries out there that are successful that are not practicing this democracy.
Democracy, and you know, your name is Churchill. You know the irony, right? I'm just making the
Absolutely,
point.
I know the irony. That's what my parents called me. I grew up in a Christian family.
Yeah.
But now, what were the reasons? Why did I go to school? I went to school so that I could be able to analyze.
Yeah, okay. Well, listen, you've got us thinking, Churchill. Thanks for that. And as I'm talking to you, I can tell you now, you know, Joshua's on a Zoom chat because he's not here, and he's putting he's got his finger next to his temple, basically saying, using your cop, you know, in South African terms. So there we are. Thinking is important. Churchill, thanks for that. Let's get a response. A quick one, Joshua. Respond to Churchill's call.
I don't think Churchill summarizes it all beautifully. That we go to school to be introduced to two tools of thinking. And one of my favorite subjects when I was in primary school and high school was debate. You know, for polygamy or against polygamy. What are the advantages, disadvantages? And then we would go and research. 3-4 days later, we come and we argue. This one saying polygamy works. This one says it doesn't work. And I wish South Africa right now could have a debate in some of your public channels. Democracy, monarchy, you know, monotheism, meritocracy, benevolent dictatorship. What is the best method of governance of people? And then people can argue. And in an academic space, we're not limited to perceptions. Your ideas must be challenged. And being an academician and a scholar means that you must be willing to put your idea at some place. And those that can engage you intentionally and intelligently can argue. Is democracy working 65 years later? I have a case to present. From Kwame Nkrumah to South Africa, I have a case to present. From Zimbabwe to Zambia, Mozambique, Rwanda, Burkina Faso, Egypt, Ghana, Nigeria, I think I can state, because in all those countries there are revolutions. People are not happy with their leadership. I can say that upfront. It's not a single country, except the three right now, they say Sahel, where there's a different brand. But there is against dictatorship. It's military dictatorship, which almost bounds itself on benevolent dictatorship, like China, where military soldiers have come in as dictators. But the advantage is that they are dictating the right thing. They are dictating the right thing, and people are happy. And if democracy means majority rules, and majority says, we want that leader, whether he's a soldier or what, we don't care about elections. We want roads, we want hospitals, we want industries, we want men, and people are happy. Who are you as South Africa to say, no, that's not right. They must come and join us here in democracy. Because democracy, so this for me is the smoke screen of confusion. Where even if it is not working, come and sit with us here, because that's what we agreed we are going to do. Who did we agree as Africans that we must be democratic? Did we agree?
Okay. Listen, we're going to include you in that debate. There's lots of voice notes I want to play. Let's play a few in a row.
Call me any day. Call me on any day.
Okay.
Call me on any day on that debate. I would want to come. Put all the scholars.
All right, but you're voicing your opinions already. I want to get the listeners from around the country. They have lots to say about you, good and bad, I think. Let's hear it.
Hi there, Ashraf. Thank you so much for bringing Mr. Mamponga there. I admire that gentleman. He's an intellectual of note. Unfortunately, my silence, you should read a lot from my silence. In Africa, I think is a one of its kind. Siabo.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SFM listeners. Ashraf, I just want to add on Joshua Maponga's comment on Nelson Chamisa. He hit the nail straight. Nelson Chamisa betrayed the people of Zimbabwe. People of Zimbabwe had faith on him, not knowing that he was sleeping in the same bed with the Mnangagwas and all those people, doing business with ZANU-PF. Yeah. Don't trust politicians. Never trust politicians. He hit the nail on the head. Nelson Chamisa betrayed the people of Zimbabwe. Thanks. That's all what I can say, James. Jobert.
Ashraf, good afternoon. Today, I must say, you and I and others, we are in for it, man. Now we are hearing it from the man himself. Yeah, Ashraf. No, I never thought I'll hear this man from. I always hear him on the TikToks and what. Not on live radio as I'm listening to him now. But I must tell you, somehow, somewhere, he's on point. Good afternoon, Marumo Maike.
People are fighting over God and no one has seen this guy. Oh my goodness. I can live with this guy. I can live with this man every day. He's a realist. I can live with him over anybody else in this world. Thank you so much for inviting this man. Ashraf, thank you so much.
Ashraf, we must take out the flowers and hand them over to the person while the person is still alive. Thank you very much for saving us well, Ashraf. You, your team, you guys, you are remarkable, man. The work that you do for us, we appreciate very much, man. You, the team, Mark, we're coming on, and to me, thank you very much, guys, man. Thank you very much. God bless. That's Max from Velcom.
Max, much appreciated, man. Listen, the team, you're to me, and of course the other contributors like Mark Ware and Jimmy and the newsreaders as well, right? Like Greg coming up just now. Of course, he's listening, I'm sure, right? But no, listen, from a production, it's very much Temba and Keith, and they play a critical role in delivering the content in terms of what it is. So for example, the point like with Joshua Maponga, people say, thank you for inviting him. I never invited him. It's not a democracy. He just forced his way onto the show. He said, I want to come, and that's it. I never invited him. It was left to me. I would have said no. Anyway, Joshua, you know, I'm kidding you. Listen, I mean, you don't need to respond to those because I think they all said what we've already discussed, right? I want to just find out from you. I mean, in terms of, you know, the books you read that stimulates you nowadays. I mean, what are they?
Man, I've created a small little page, but unfortunately I lost the number in South Africa and the page has been hijacked. But there's a page called FOT Readers Club on Telegram. I've uploaded almost like 2,000 books there. The Andy Diops of this world, the Chinua Achebes, the Soyinkas, the Ngugi wa Thiongos, the Steve Bikos. I mean, the entire how Africa civilized the world, how to make a nigger, a Christian. Like literally, that's like my posted. But get to the media space and the documents there. I've actually put like a big, beautiful library.
But I'm going to ask you to give me one book to recommend that we must read. We can answer that right after this.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you commission live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
All right, we've got about just about 8 minutes or so to go, Joshua Maponga, as we wrap up the show. I'm very keen. So give me one book, just one, that you recommend we must read.
I will personally come and deliver a book to you, Ashraf Garda. Having read half of those books, I wrote my own book entitled African Questions and African Solutions. Half of the book are questions, half of the book are solutions. And I would give you that. I'll buy it for you.
And thank you very much. But that's the book you recommend others must read as well.
It's almost like if you don't have time to go through the 400 books and you just want to hear an academic scholar now soaked in all this literature, making an honest reflection. So I picked up 7 subjects. That was education, that was governance, agriculture, business and economics, health and technology, then sports, recreation, entertainment, and number 7 was spirituality. And when I went through all those books, then I created each chapter with each questions, particularly for masters and graduate students. That book is brilliant because it allows you to ask the right question. Yeah,
I would love to read it. I would love to read it. Now, listen. I mean, obviously, many people admire you. Some people are very critical of you, right? But give me a young person. Name a young person that you really admire, and why? From anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, in fact.
The young person I really admire. Who will that be? Oh, that's a very interesting. There's a young boy in Uganda.
Yeah.
They call him the president. He's a young boy. I think he's in primary school.
Yeah.
That boy's got a vision. When I hear him, my heart beats. I almost hear the voices of the ancestors speaking through him. And I don't know where he gets all that data from. What he knows, I even don't know. I think that boy is my inspiration.
So
I don't know.
He's called the president, and you don't know his real name, right? No. But
I don't know the president. Yeah, but it's just called the president. From Uganda.
Now we're all going to look for him. Yeah. Hey?
Look for the president. Look for the president.
I'm going to look for
that
him.
That boy is going to run Africa one day. I tell you now.
The president. Wow. So if you...
The president.
Right. If you had a question for... Because I mean, you lived in South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Tanzania. So for South Africa's president, if you had a chance to ask Ramaphosa one question, what would you ask him? Only one question.
Why have you become the colonizer yourself? So what were you fighting against?
Okay. What's your question for Donald?
Same system.
Yeah, if you had a chance to ask Donald Trump one question, what would you ask him?
When you eat everybody else, there'll be nothing to eat. You will eat yourself. So why are you destroying other people? If you want the whole world to become Americans, then give us passports to become all Americans. Why are you fighting other people's sovereignty and you want them to respect your sovereignty?
Okay, I wonder what he'll answer you, right? Is there a good? I mean,
He can't answer. He can't answer me. He won't answer me.
He won't answer you. Yeah. Okay. Would you have gone with South Africa's politicians to the White House if they invited you to meet Trump the last time? Last year.
I would want to open the door for him and give him a lecture first before the meeting. That was a circus, by the way. That was a circus. It was a joke that we took Ramaphosa to be humiliated by an uneducated fool called Trump. I mean, how do you pick pictures from Congo and make them South African? Your whole office, the whole research team in the President of America to bring false evidence and blackmail South Africa on the basis of misinformation. I think that was intellectually insulting. That was horrible. That was a diplomatic miscarriage.
Okay. So listen, now you said no democracy. If you could rule by decree in the world, the whole world, not Zimbabwe, not Tanzania, not South, anywhere in the world, right? And your one decision will change the world. What's the one decision you would make in effect for the whole world?
If a man rapes a woman, I'll chop off that piece of furniture and give it to dogs.
Okay, why so? Explain, motivate.
You don't know how to use it. You don't know how to use it.
Now
Power is for abuse. Negotiation and love get the same job done with cooperation.
Okay. How, when you now reflect on your life, what for you has been your biggest achievement?
Was to discover myself. That what the colonialism and Christianity had told me that I was not.
That was your biggest achievement. What has been your biggest failing?
To have propagated to transport people to heaven, and I don't know where the place is.
And when you realized that you didn't have the GPS to heaven, did you feel like the need to go and look for all those people that you spoke to before and tell them that you got it wrong?
I'm a broken man. I feel sad. I wish people could see the world through the window in which I see it now.
Well, they are seeing it. They may not agree with you, but they definitely are seeing it, right? Is there a good quote? I mean, you say lots of things and you've got like hundreds of quotes, but is there one quote that of yours, your own quote, that you know is so powerful that you love repeating?
When the face is beautiful and the software is not working, the hardware between the legs will always suffer. When the country is beautiful and leadership is absent, the resources belong to the strangers.
The resources belong to the strangers, and that's what you perceive right now, right? Is there other?
Yeah.
What's the one? I mean, we got about a minute and a bit to go, right? You've said so many things. How would you like the world to remember you? You're going to die one day, you know that, right? And whether
and by the way, Ashraf, the minute I can spend it, I'm going to the farm tonight. I'm actually going to prepare my grave, my sepulchre. I want to go and prepare it nicely, dig it up, and put a chair in there where I will be buried. I want to prepare for my death. I don't want people to come and decide where I must be buried. I will decide for myself.
Okay, but
one thing people can remember me for
is
the man that lived and he questioned everything. And he died not satisfied with the narrative that he had been given.
So what would you write on your tombstone? If you could now, because you're in charge of everything, right? So what would you inscribe on your tombstone?
When I was alive, I was behind you. Now that I'm dead, I am ahead of you. Where I am, you will come. Where you are, I once was.
I think that is so true. Now suddenly the whole country listening are skrik, man. You know, people listening like, oh my goodness, man, why did he have to say that? He just spoiled my whole mood. Yeah, okay. Listen.
But if you are not ready to die, you're not ready to live.
But most people are not ready to die, are they?
No,
you know that.
That's why we have zombies that have no purpose.
Okay, we've got 10 seconds. One message to the people of South Africa listening. You got one line to tell them. What's it?
South Africa, move away from being a company, become a country, and in your sovereignty, find yourselves and create a hybrid system and contribute to the universe.
Okay. A hybrid system, out with democracy is what you said. Democracy, as Churchill has said. Joshua Maponga, your time is up. I rule by decree, whether you like it or not. We have to stop talking to you. And I know others want to talk, but we can't.
When I come, I'll come and see you.
I know. Okay, looking forward to that once again. Joshua Maponga, hugely entertaining, certainly thought-provoking. Agree, disagree. He got you thinking, didn't he? Let's get the news now. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg House.